style. 3, 2, 1, we are live. So okay,
Hold
you
on,
were talking
Jamie.
about you made a video years ago about what?
Yeah, it's on how I was at the time, how I was making the cartridges for the Prussian needle rifle, that's Sonnadelgewehr. And of course, now you can't do that. Any making ammo is forbidden by
You
the.
can't do like reloading videos or anything like that.
I don't think so.
I'm not sure. I think they consider it ammunition production.
Yep.
So making those cartridges now, the only thing maybe that'll save me is YouTube has no idea what a Sonnadelgewehr is. They don't know what a
Yeah, they'll
So
look at the
it
algorithm and
might,
be like,
it
oh,
might
it's a
kind of
long German
the
word.
algorithm
Yeah.
doesn't go by.
Yeah.
Well, even on my website, I've had to be very careful because PayPal is which I prefer not to use because you use their service and then they take the money and they use it to attack your rights.
Exactly, and I've had
and I'm not
problems
talking
with,
about
it was
like
selling, like. Oh, go ahead. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm probably lagging. My bad. I'm not
well,
trying to
no,
interrupt
it's my internet here is probably pretty poor too. But we're not even talking about like the controversial stuff, like ARs or things. They're just against, like you should never, no one should have a gun pretty much for anything, and they will advocate with your money. But they'll also catch words like cartridges, bullets, ammunition, anything like
That's why
that.
I call my replica grenades that I paint them. I put spring kits in them. They're totally inert. There's no way they can be made active or live.
Yeah, they don't care.
But if I say M67 grenade, they'll flag it and they'll be like, your account's frozen. But if I say M67 paperweight,
Yep.
Yeah. Well, everything on my website is ball, 45 caliber ball, 58 caliber ball.
there you go.
It works.
It is a ball. Yep.
It is a ball.
Whether it's minier or ball, it's
Right.
a ball.
Yeah. Well, even it's hilarious that we still call like modern ammo, it's still ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, but I mean, tradition speaks for itself. So just to tell people, like, there's a few people that are in here now, but like, so I'm gonna like probably just hang back for most of this because black powder is kind of out of my wheelhouse of knowledge and stuff, but I'm very interested in it. I think the farthest I go back with my knowledge is like probably like the early cartridge black powder rifles, like the Martini Henry and the Beaumont Vitali and stuff like that, where I've actually had experience with that. I think it's the oldest black powder rifle I've shot, besides like a replica brown bass and stuff like that. So I don't have a lot of knowledge past probably, we'll just say 1870 going back. And so you guys have more knowledge, and if I have a question, if anybody else that comes on here in the chat has a question, like we'll just ask. But like I kind of just want to like let you guys riff and just talk about like the
real quick. If you look at your right side of your screen, there's a private chat which only us three will see, or whoever jumps into the video. Comments are the comments that are on YouTube.
I'm on my phone, so I might have to. Okay.
I don't know how that works because I've used a phone. Okay.
Yeah, I use my phone for everything. Like everything.
Yeah.
I edit my videos on my phone. I take all the video on my phone.
Yeah.
Well, this is my camera. So yeah.
And it, I don't know if you've seen some of my most recent videos, like the last two.
Yes.
Where I take the camera and I just stick it in the spotting scope. And you set the iPhone, nothing special. It's like an iPhone. I think this is a 15. It's not even the latest. Put it on slow motion. Not only can you see the bullets moving downrange, you can see them spinning.
No shit.
Yeah, it is. Well, then again, these are only moving at like they're going 800 feet per second.
I think your one video you could actually see the plug in the rear of the bullet as it went into the target. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my new the coolest thing for me, like making the videos. People will probably get sick of it after a while, but see with black powder, the bullets are going slow enough, and it helps that they're the size of eggs, basically. The phone can see them. Like if I took the 6.5 Swede out there, I doubt you're going to really see that thing.
Probably not.
In
a little
air,
bit snappy,
and what's really like cool to me in these slow motion with the black powder is you can watch the curve of the trajectory. You watch the bullet go up, and then you watch it go down as it hits the target. Even at 100 yards, like it's doing a rainbow, even at short range. You don't really think about that because you shoot and there's a hole in the target. But black powder, one of the cool things that I find interesting about it is everything is in slow motion. So I started shooting modern rifles. My first rifle back here on the rack somewhere, it's a K98, 18 years old, 8mm K98. And
it's ironic. Mine was an M1.
Yeah. Well, then it's the same. Like that's what I got used to, and I'm old enough now to say I remember when I could go to the gun show and buy that Turkish surplus, that awful, horrible 8mm Turkish surplus in those 70-round bandoliers. I still have some with the price tag on it, $5.50.
Oof.
We would go to the range.
Yep.
And we would shoot 500 rounds and not even flinch.
No.
Shoot full power military surplus 8mm Mauser.
Your shoulder's getting a little bit sore, and you're like, God damn, this is fun. Let's just keep going.
Yeah,
and
Mama I remember
we had so much ammo. We went camping once, and we had so much ammo that we were using 8mm Mauser to chop up logs for the fire by shooting at the logs.
Right.
Dude, the ammo it's just so cheap. It's pennies.
Exactly.
And,
we bought when we got back from deployment in 2010, my buddy and I, we would have a couple drinks and like play Counter-Strike, and then late at night we're like, we'll aim surplus. They've got Czech VZ24 Mausers for $200 shipped.
Yeah.
Oh, a crate of ammo? Oh, the free shipping on that? $200 for 780 rounds on clips. And then we go out and we would burn through the whole crate in one day. Just 700 something rounds of just on one rifle. It's like, oh my god!
Cans of the 7.62 Russian.
Oh, the 7.62.
So that's why I went out and bought I think it's a 9130, which you won't see it back here because I no longer have it. But I bought the spam can of the ammo, shot through the ammo, and then just sold the gun. I'm like, okay, I'm done. Because I like smooth bolts.
The 9130 is one you've got to manhandle it. You've got to just like beat the shit out of it. It works.
The garbage rod.
It'll pull
garbage rod.
A lot of those early bolt actions, though. So we have to remember we kind of think of it as a World War II gun, but 1891.
Exactly.
It is a first generation smokeless powder rifle, and I don't want to say all because there were some really, really smooth bolts. Like the Gewehr 88 is a really smooth bolt. The Krag, of course, is a smooth bolt.
Oh.
The Kropatschek, the Mannlichers, the Lebel, all of those, you have to cycle that bolt with authority. You can't just gingerly cycle it. So the 91 Mosin Nagant is from that era where you have to manhandle that bolt. But I cannot stand talking about Mosins. The only thing worse than Mosins is talking about them.
The old garbage rod.
Well, no, but here's the thing: is like you have a pretty fair assessment of them. Like they're not anything pretty. They work. They put lead down range, but you have to know how to use that tool.
Right.
And it's not as elegant as other weapons, even at that time period. Like even a Mauser, like an 1889 or 1891 Mauser rifle, is going to be a hell of a lot easier to handle than a 91 Mosin Nagant, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
that's fair. Yeah.
So
even in 91, I'm sure you're familiar with C and Arsenal, like Othias.
I'm
like
good people. Yeah.
1891, that design was still old. Like there was so much better that the Russians could have gone with in 1891.
Agreed. Let me restart my camera. It's getting freaking blurry as always.
Yeah, I was.
You guys just keep talking.
Yeah, I was this close to getting the. A buddy of mine did World War I, and he was like, "You need to come in and do it." And I was like, "All right." My lineage on my father's side is Austrian, so I was like, all right, if I could find a M95,
Mannlicher.
crap. The Steyr.
Yeah,
I'll do it. All you could find is the carbines, but I got real lucky one day, and it was like $300 for the rifle, not the carbine that was redone after the war, and it was a gun broker deal that fell through, whatever. But I was like, I really wanted one just because of straight pull bolt. Like I know everybody's like, oh, the Swedish K, but I was like, I wanted that one because I could do World War I Austrian, but it fell through. But yeah, that from my understanding, that rifle kicks like a mule.
It
but it's
does,
very smooth.
especially the carbine.
Yeah.
Well, I've got again. I wish I could show people history, pieces of history.
No balls.
But I've got an M95 long rifle, and it as long as and like as big as it is, compared to the other, because I got the M91, the actual M91 Mosin above that, and I've got a Swedish or Chilean. That's Chilean M95 below that. It is so thin and just so weirdly designed. It's very straight, as like most late 19th century firearms were. And yeah, the ones that were rechambered to 8x56 kick like a freaking mule, dude. Like the 8x50 rimmed was a little bit less oomphy, but then when they rechambered all these things, mostly in Bulgaria after the First World War, when they rechambered them to 8x56, holy shit, man! Like it even a long rifle feels like you're shooting a carbine, like an M44 Mosin or something like that. And it's like, God damn, dude. But
well, what's a little bit better than the M95, not better, that's the wrong word, but just much softer recoil is the 1886 or the 1888 and the 1888-90, which have a wedge lock in the bolt, because the 95 it's like a battleship gun, it's got that threaded end on the front of the bolt to handle the much higher pressures. But the 1888, so the Austrians made one. So the Austrians kind of got they're unique in history. Studying the Austrian army in the 19th century is because no one does it. They're fascinating, but they are so close all the time. They're so close. And of course, Steyr was like arming everybody in the late 19th century. And Mannlicher was a genius. He comes out in 1886. So we get so many it's the first straight pull bolt action rifle. It is the first clip loaded rifle ever, but it's an 11 millimeter black powder. So you got these big fat paper patched bullets, 11 millimeter black powder cartridges, but they're on a charger clip, and it's an en bloc clip. The Germans, and in fact, we all call them en bloc clips after the French, but the first people to get them were the Austrians, and it was they called it the packet. So a stripper clip or an en bloc clip loading is Paketladung in the German. They came up 1886. They adopt this for their army, and they're 1886, and they start producing them in Steyr, a straight pull 5-round magazine en bloc clip, and the clip falls out the bottom of it's a Mannlicher, so the clip falls out when you're empty, and you can dump those 5 rounds in less than 5 seconds, just boom, 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 boom. And of course, what else happened in 1886?
The Lebel.
Right. So they have this 11 millimeter black powder gun shooting a paper patched bullet that at the time it was the most modern infantry rifle in the world. And they literally adopt it and start building it, and they commit to it. And then France comes out with a 8 millimeter smokeless powder, flat trajectory, like game changing rifle.
Pretty high velocity too for the time.
So they went from having the most modern infantry rifle in the world to just another obsolete black powder gun. So they panic a little bit in 1888, and they say we need an 8 millimeter rifle. So they scale it down. They bring the 1886 Mannlicher. They just scale it down to the 1888, but they haven't figured out how to make smokeless powder. So the 1888 Mannlicher is black powder. So it's 8 millimeter. It's a small bore rifle, but it's still black powder. Finally, in 1890, they get their smokeless powder production up and running, and then they take little pieces of metal and they screw them on the sides of rifles now to match the faster trajectory, so you can set your sights to the smokeless powder. So the 8890 is what it's called. Austria never made enough M95s to supply their army, so that 8890 soldiered on through the entire war. There were still Austrian frontline units still carrying those things in 1918. Much weaker action, but just a lot of fun to load, because I only shoot them with black powder because it's so much more fun. And all you got to do is unscrew the if you have an older 88, you just unscrew the little plates they put on the sight, and now your sights are back to black powder.
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
And but you can unload those. Oh, I got a great. I went to a public range back when I lived in California once, and the guy, every time I went to that range, there's a loudspeaker, and everyone goes there. It's the Angeles Range in California, so it's a massive range, and there could be 100 people there shooting at any given day. But the announcement every 15 minutes there's a ceasefire, and then when you resume fire, this range worker over the loudspeaker would say, 1 round every 3 seconds, no rapid fire, or maybe 5 seconds. Except for you black powder people, you can shoot as fast as you want. And he said this
wrong.
That was his shtick. And so, of course, what do? I load up the SLE with 10 in the mag, 1 in the chamber of black powder. And when he says, 1 round every 5 seconds, no rapid fire, except for you black powder people, you can shoot as fast as you want. And I minute mag dumped that thing in about 4 seconds. And of course, he's like, ceasefire. And I said, you just said I could shoot as fast as I want with black powder. And then after that, he says, you muzzleloader people can shoot as fast as you want.
Yeah, of course.
So I ruined it for everybody else.
Yeah, you fucked it up for everyone on there. They were like, God, why? We were having so much fun. Yeah, no, I've bitched about these ranges before on videos, and
they're impossible.
As long as you're not hurting anybody and you're not being a total douchebag, who gives a fuck how fast you're shooting? Like, it's a range. That's my opinion.
Well, they're worried about liability.
No, I get that, but it's still like, if you were running a range and you had people around you who were competent, that's the key factor. Who could just go out there and run it themselves, because around where I'm at, people run the range themselves, and oddly enough, nobody comes even close to getting hurt. So
well, the scary thing here in Pennsylvania, and so I don't tell anyone, but I grew up in California.
Oh no!
And I know. Shh.
He escaped. He escaped.
I did. It took several decades to reach what I call escape velocity to get out.
Well, it's been a good stream, Brett. Good having you on here. We'll see you.
I recant and repent, and I denounce Gavin Newsom and all his works.
So do I.
But when I made it out to Pennsylvania, because California was like actively, it's California, and it's proactively anti-gun. Like, we discourage you from owning anything, and they know the lead bullet bans and like just making it so hard. Background checks now to buy ammunition.
All right, so pause right there. I just can't help but chuckle inside, because I have your latest book about making black powder, and you're out in the desert, like mixing it all up in a sandbag bunker.
It's so the difference. So in California, you can walk down the street, public street, drop your pants, take a crap on the sidewalk while shooting yourself up with your cocktail of choice. and the cop will drive right by you and wave, perfectly legal. But if you have a magazine that holds 11 rounds, your ass is going to jail.
That makes a lot of sense to me because it creates safer streets, Brett. So I don't know what you're kind of getting at, but
it's common sense. Common sense.
It's common sense. That's what I mean. Like I kind of wish more people would have gun laws in California. I mean, because then we wouldn't have any violence, right?
Yeah.
They don't have any gun violence there.
The flip is here in Pennsylvania. You can drive down. Of course, there's no helmet laws for motorcycles here. There's still like the last. And it's a Commonwealth too, which like there's the last gasp of old America freedom. But you can drive down the street here with 2 ARs in each hand with a 100-round drum magazine.
Same here,
and that's perfectly fine. But if you have a little bit of marijuana in your car, you're going to jail.
Well, see, and that's the thing too. Is like, so I live in Wisconsin, right? That's where I hail from, born and raised, very proud of it, and they don't give a flying fuck about weed. Yes, it's technically legal.
It's the same here. I smell it everywhere. Just
exactly. Unless you're being an absolute douchebag.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't
driving with it. Yeah.
Right.
Dude, but yeah, again, like you said, we used to. I mean, we've carried guns. Like when we go to my buddy's place, like we were walking down a county road, and we all had like 4 or 5 guns strapped on our backs, and then pistols and shit, and a bunch of carrying crates of ammo back to his place, and the cop just goes, "Hey, you guys all right?" The deputy. We're like, "Yeah, we're good." He's like, "What are you doing?" We're like, "Walking back home." Okay. See ya. That's it. That was the interaction. And it's an open carry state, obviously. So you can open carry, no problem. People do it all the fucking time, and it's not a problem at all. The weed thing too is like, as more time goes on, they don't give a shit. However, it's funny how California is like, yeah, if you're carrying around a like 17-round Glock mag, even unloaded, it's like it's like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Fucking what's his name at the end? Donald Sutherland.
Leroy.
Yeah, just fucking screaming at you. And it's like, really? Let's prioritize some shit. How about that? There's a guy taking a dump there. It's about to overdose on F, and it's like, okay. So anyway, my rant.
One thing I miss about and not just California, but Arizona and the West is that open public land that you can shoot on. So like the Bureau of Land Management owns vast amounts of what's essentially wasteland. It is just scrub desert, but and there's nothing like it out here in Pennsylvania. You like to take. I like shooting long range, specifically shooting black powder at long range.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is very hard. It's a long drive, and you have to fight to join a club that has got like a 6-month or a year long waiting list to get in. If you want to shoot more than a couple hundred yards in California,
that sucks.
Like a 3-hour drive.
Oof.
You could get out to the Mojave Desert. And if you wanted to, you could take a 5,000-yard shot. It is open, scrub, flat desert. You got to kind of watch out for like ATV riders and stuff like that. But you can see them coming a mile away. And, you wouldn't think they would drive towards, the fusillade of gunshots. But you can shoot steel. So I made, and there's some old videos on the channel in like they were the good old days. I really, really miss doing this in California. But I made steel targets. And the beauty about black powder is you can use thin steel. So 3/16 steel is bulletproof at about 150 yards for any black powder gun. Or at least a muzzleloader.
Barely makes a dent.
Yeah. At 600 yards, there is no dent. You just get a lead
splash,
just like a flower-shaped lead splash.
Silver dollar. Yeah.
But and again, I'm shooting black powder, so people might, a 4-foot square target at 400 yards probably isn't that impressive for people used to shooting a modern rifle. Yeah. But with the rifle musket, that's kind of a challenging shot. The rifle musket we'll just take like the pattern 1853 infield.
Yep.
The bullet drops 18 inches in 100 yards.
Yeah.
I don't remember how far it drops at 200 or 300 yards, but I do know at 600 yards. So if you fire at 600 yards, the bullet at its highest point in the trajectory is 30 feet above the ground. So hitting a 4-foot tall target at range is quite challenging with black powder. But it's that instant gratification. You set your targets up, 2, 3, 4, and then one up the hill up at 600 yards. And you get that gong-like clang sound come back.
You get the report.
Yeah. And it's nothing like that here in Pennsylvania. You can't, unless you know a guy with like private farm property who has hundreds of acres. And by the way, if you know anyone, I'm looking.
I know people around here, but not out that far east. So
I'm surprised no one around your area hasn't reached out yet, because
I have a couple leads. I got a couple leads.
Cool.
I need to be a little more aggressive. But I will say the local public range, which is about 15 minutes up the road from me, it's only 100 yards. If I want to drive about 45 minutes, there's a 300-yard public range. And to circle back to California, it was a shock coming here to Pennsylvania and seeing, wait, the state gives you a public gun range to shoot at? That idea that the state would encourage target shooting, it was completely foreign, because California is actively against gun ranges, like trying to lead abatement and noise and safety. Like, good luck now opening a new gun range in California. Like, I don't. You'll never get it, and then come out here. But it makes sense, because in California, tragically, when you would go out to the desert or out to the mountains, there's a lot of these little shooting spots, and people drag their TVs up there. They drag their couches and computer monitors. Just shoot them to plastic crap, and over 50 years, you get basically this environmental wasteland, or all the mercury from these old tube TV sets and stuff. And then the state would come in and close it down, and then a lot of little shooting spots ended up getting closed. And then, like, the Los Padres Forest I used to go shooting in, they banned all target shooting a few years ago, and you'll never be able to target shoot there again. You'll be able to hunt, because they said people keep dragging up targets, making a mess, and not cleaning it up. And there's forests here in Pennsylvania.
It's really bad.
But you really don't need to do that when the state gives you a really nice range. Like, the benches are nice, the overhead cover is nice, they mow the grass, they maintain the target stands. Like, it's a really nice place to shoot. I think it's like $24 a year for a shooting permit.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And you can go shoot there all day long, all you want. The only problem is, like, this time of year, as we're coming into hunting season, everyone is there
sighting in the old Remington
700. Exactly. Yeah, it's a real challenge to try to do a video there when you got grandpa.
That's why I had to stop making videos at my local range. I used to make them there, but it's like, you get people, and they're nice. They're not like assholes or anything like that, but when you're sitting there, and you're like, all right, we're gonna be shooting this rifle today. This is this, and this, and blah, 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 blah. Boom. Oh, what do you got there? Is that a Springfield? And I'm like, oh, fuck, man, come on.
It's even worse when you got a Dreiser needle rifle.
What do you got there? Is that one of them Russian guns?
Yeah. I don't even try to.
It's not even worth explaining.
So the last video that I made, the one on the P51, and then so I got people on there saying, "Oh, it's a crap group" and things, and I need to learn just to let the comments go.
Yes, I'll say this. I've been making videos for years, and I used to let them get to me really hard. It literally does not matter what they say in those comments.
Yeah.
If you like what you do and you enjoy posting videos, keep fucking doing it.
Well, if they want to comment and say it's a crap group, then YouTube's going to think, oh, people are interested in this video and recommend it more. So yeah, bring it on. Tell me how bad my group is.
Also, just ask them where their video is.
Yeah.
That's my, like this one guy said, that's a crap group. And I said, well, I'm looking forward. And I just posted this like 2 days ago. And I told him, says, well, I'm waiting for you to post me the link of your group shooting your 170-year-old rifle.
Right. They never reply, dude. They'll never reply.
Yeah. No,
because they don't, they're like, oh, they're spurging out. But like, it's so.
I am going to shoot it again.
Good. I like your content.
Yeah. I'm going to shoot it again. Because
to go back though, how did you start into all of this? Because for the people who don't know, Brett has his own website and obviously YouTube here I have pulled up, but he has his own website where he reproduces ammunition of black powder cartridges for a vast amount of weapons, to include, correct me if I'm wrong, the Whitworth, the Needle Gewehr, Maynard tape primer, etc. But how did you get into, like, this is a niche that needs to be filled and I'm going to do it? Obviously you are an ordnance officer in the Army. Just give us the stream, of course, because I have do you have 4 books now? I think I have most of them.
Yeah, for one of them I don't really call a book. It's a pamphlet, but
yeah, it's very informational.
It's the little manual, like School of Musketry manual.
Yeah.
No, this all started. I never thought, I went to college. I had a history degree, and I worked for the county. I never thought when 15. Well, no, I've been doing this since 2008. That's been 17 years. Good grief. I never ever thought I would be doing, making musket ammo for a living. It started like perfectly organically, and it grew out of Civil War reenacting. So I was in my teens, started Civil War reenacting, and Civil War reenactors. I don't know how it is for like World War I or World War II, but Civil War reenactors, as almost a broad brush rule, they don't live fire their muskets. They go out and they shoot them at the reenactments with blanks, but only a small percent actually live fire.
Now,
so I was reenact.
Have you ever gotten that quote where they're like, "Yeah, I don't live fire because the lead residue might come out during a reenactment"?
Constantly, yeah,
yeah,
and it's there are. So I can't speak too much lately, but when I was still reenacting in California, that was a big concern. And it was never like an event, like the reenactment itself made a rule. And who's going to know too, like if you live fire out of the barrel, but the reenacting unit would say, you have to have, and including the one I was in when I was in California, it says, if you live fire, you either can't use that gun for reenacting, or you have to have a barrel for reenacting and a barrel for live fire, which I just absolutely disregarded. Like, come on, I can tell that there is no lead left in my barrel, and I have had like the base rings of bullets separate in the barrel and leave that a nasty ring of lead in the barrel. It happens, but it is like anyone with half a brain can tell. The bigger problem reenacting has is so many reenactors do not clean their guns. The care of them, and I'm speaking for Civil War reenacting. Just a couple weeks ago at Cedar Creek, we stacked arms, and I'm walking past the stack, and I look down at all the barrels that are in this stack. And I can just see the red globs of rust in the muzzle, and it's just like, wow, we're anyway.
Oh yeah,
as a reenactor back then, me and a couple buddies are like, hey, let's go to the range. And it was that same Angelus range that I ruined it for everyone mad minuting the SMLE with black powder. So let's go shoot to the musket, and had no idea what we were doing. Went out there, bought bullets that came in, bought them online. The bullets came in a bag, so when they arrived, they were all dented up.
Yeah.
And we go to, and of course they're not sized, and
Yep.
and black powder rifle muskets. The bullets need to be sized, otherwise,
Yes.
forget it. And we just had the worst, most horrible experience. In fact, I got a bullet stuck the very first time I went and live fired my Springfield, which is here on the wall somewhere. Got a bullet stuck about 8 inches from the breech. Yep. Could not seat it. Yep. And I didn't have a ball puller. Again, we're reenactors. We went to the range for the first time. That was just a disaster. But that started, and they were always, the first several times we went shooting. We'll try this. We'll try this, something different. Just, the bullets we bought were bad. Let's buy a different type of bullet. Just horrible experiences where you would have to brush out your barrel after every 3 or 4 shots because it was horrible. And we're thinking, how the hell are these stories of Civil War combat where the guys are shooting off all their ammo and the unit had to retreat because they expended all their ammo? We can't get 5 shots off without having to go back to the bench, and brush the bore out. Just horrible, miserable experience. And then slowly learning more, reading more, and then I really wanted to make the British Enfield cartridge. And I started exploring how the British made their Enfield cartridges. And then, long story short, figured it out for myself. And then I would have, let my friends shoot 2 or 3 of these. And they're like, whoa, these are great. Can you make some for me? And then they said, my buddy, I let him shoot some of the ones you gave me. He wants you to make them for me. And it organically started like a snowball, so that the next thing I knew, I'm spending like half of my time trying to make these cartridges for all my buddies, and then half of my time still trying to work for the county. Of course, the county, back 2009, county lays me off, and so I walk into the Army recruiter's office. They didn't even have to call me. They didn't have to look me up. I walk right in and said, where do I sign?
Jesus.
I needed a job. That was 2010. But since like paper cartridges, the website has been up since 2008. So it's been 17 years. Wow. That started as a side hustle, and then I went like around 2014 is when I went like full time. Like, just this is what I do now. I'm a merchant of Victorian death, and it's been fun. And I tell people, ask, well, what do you do? And I go, well, so I make ammo for Victorian firearms, and I say, if you're not happy with your Civil War ammo provider, you might consider making a change.
We sell black powder and black powder accessories. Black powder
accessories, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll share that real quick.
Brett's website, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm living the dream now with
the Pritchard cartridges. I'm glad to see that you have these on it, but we
don't talk about. I hate mini balls. Just hate them.
You started producing the swaged mini balls, correct?
Right. Yeah. They. I don't think I have them on the featured items. You kind of have to. I probably should put them on the featured items now that I think about it. But you got to go deeper into the website and search them down.
But these are the bread. These are the bread and butter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the Pritchett. Yeah, we should definitely, if you're okay with that, Brett, I'd love to show the people your video on that cartridge and you actually firing it.
Oh, yeah. Which one? There's like 10 videos on the channel.
Trey and I were watching this earlier. Like, we were just fucking
Yeah.
around in your channel.
We were just
and,
we were trying to get an idea of what to show.
Yeah, were you commenting saying, "Oh my god, that's the worst group I've ever seen"?
100%. Yeah, yeah. I was like, this is god
I
awful.
will now. I will now. Oh yeah. So okay, for those who haven't seen this yet, I think this is one of the first ones that Trey showed me and like people on the stream. This is fucking insane. I know what you're doing. I don't know if I can do
So
that without.
there is a better one than this video.
Which one is that?
This is this was several years ago up in Alberta, in Canada.
Okay.
When I first set the infield land speed record, but I have since shot it even faster. But
what's the Trey, go back to his channel. What's the video called then? Or I'm sorry, did you not take a video of it, or you just
no?
did
There is. I can't remember what the name of it is.
So, but was it with the 1853 though?
Yep.
So Trey, if you can search his channel and see if he's got a more recent one of him beating this record, which is fucking insane.
Let's see, range. Was it this one?
No, it was not too long ago. As I remember, it was shortly before I deployed.
What year would that have been?
I can't remember what it was called. Keep going. So the background of this is that, okay, right there. It's far left. It says like who will win on the thumbnail. Yeah. So there were some guys who we started doing something called the 5-shot challenge, and it is
5 shots in a minute.
It's how fast can you shoot
I remember this one. Yeah,
a rifle musket, and the rules are you have to start with an unloaded gun, and you have to put the ramrod back every time. You can't like stick the ramrod in the ground to save time. Like you got to put,
which doesn't really
your
save
ramrod
time,
back.
but
it really doesn't.
Let's watch. If you did 5 shots in a fucking minute, that's
There's a little bit of an intro. It's where so I was shooting it with the Pritchett rounds, and I'm all happy with myself. Like no one's gonna beat this. And then these 2 Confederate reenactors who also do live fire. I forget their names.
I think
really good guys. They beat me by a couple seconds with mini balls. And so it's like, yeah, my life is over. Like I have been beaten by Confederate reenactors shooting mini balls.
Yeah, Mr.
Is there an accuracy requirement, or is it just they have to be?
You're supposed to aim. They are supposed to be aim shots. The accuracy is like if you put them all on a target, that's a plus. You are supposed to aim. And the rules are on my website somewhere. There's still a page for like the what we call and a bunch of people did it. There's probably 10 or 12 videos from different people doing the 5-shot rifle musket challenge. But after the Revs beat me, because one of the gimmicks of my channel is me too. I love the infield cartridge, and I can't stand the U.S. style mini ball.
The Burton bullet.
And so to be beaten by the Burton bullet, basically, I'm like sitting at my desk, smoking Lucky Strikes, like to say my life is over. There's nothing left. The Burton ball beat me.
Yeah, nice.
And then the ghost of Mr. Pritchett talks to me, and I go out and shoot it. And of course, save England and the Queen and all this stuff.
So I think Trey, it's the 3rd segment or 4th where he starts shooting.
Once upon a time.
Let's just go to that.
I say, you there. Are you moping about like a Welshman? You shan't let some Americans best the infield cartridge.
Oh, yeah.
Up, man.
You're definitely one of our
the
people.
Infield for Her Majesty, England, and St. George. And for me, Robert Taylor Pritchett.
If you look closely, my book is in the trash can too.
Yep, right there. The Destroying Angel. Yep.
We're gonna go show those dumb Americans what the infield cartridge can do.
My man's a yeah, man of class.
The breaking.
Great.
I love that sound. Yeah. Can you full screen, Trey? Oh fuck yeah, you're going for speed. Damn, dude.
See, so they are aimed shots. Like
Yes.
you're not just firing it from the hip. These are aimed.
No, I
The
get it.
slowest time, if you look at what takes the most time, it's the cap.
Yep.
Manipulating the cap takes several seconds. So imagine if that had a Maynard tape primer.
Right. Which we'll talk about in a little bit. Yes.
Or we can get you one of those little cap strips you put on your vest. Just like guard.
Still, this is
I'm sure-
fucking nuts. I mean, the speed for aimed shots, this is fucking nuts.
Yeah.
The muzzle loader.
Now, no 18th or 19th century soldier probably could do this, except maybe like. So you see, I'm struggling with the cap.
Yeah, because it gets
Get
gunked
on
up,
there.
it gets
Yeah.
shit on the nipple. Yeah, I mean,
So then this round, I shoot in 10 seconds.
Is it is the cap faster than a flintlock?
yeah.
Or maybe it was like 12 seconds.
But it's still, I mean,
No,
12
the-
seconds. Yeah.
I think the flintlock is actually faster.
Yeah,
You think so?
I
because
think
you
the
don't have to finagle a cap. You just rip
Right.
Oh, and
Yeah,
also
that-
you prime it before you even pop it down and
Right.
start fucking ramming
Yeah.
home.
I,
And then
I
it's
think the
primed, you
flintlock would be faster.
Huh. I had, well, but here's the thing: is the cap is more reliable for
Yes.
ignition.
Yes.
and the flintlock will wear out after about 15 or 20 shots. You have to start nicking the flint.
Yeah, napping the flint and and
Yep.
cleaning off the plate in the. I mean, yeah, flint. So everything's got its drawback, but the way you were shooting was that I don't think people realize that was super fucking fast. I mean, that was like lightning speed for a rifled musket like that. That's insane. Oh yeah, check this out. This is fucking awesome.
So yeah, give us a little bit of background for people who don't know what the Maynard is, real quick. I'm gonna use the bathroom, but yeah, go ahead and give us a little
Yeah.
background, because this is very unknown to most people, even in our hobby, who don't know like what that little door is on a 55 or even the Sharps carbine that has it as well.
Yeah. Maynard, Edward Maynard, who of all things was a dentist, came up with an idea that instead of the percussion cap, instead we'll just put the primer compound in a paper tape, very, very similar to all those roll caps that we grew up playing with. That you can probably smell the smell of those things just thinking about them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's exactly the same concept. It's just a roll of paper, and there's little dots of priming compound, so spaced along this tape.
Would that have been mercury fulminate at that point?
It was mercury fulminate. Mine are a chlorate based primer, so mine are corrosive. But I would rather deal with cleaning up corrosive primer than making stuff with mercury. I'm
There's a trade-off with everything.
I don't understand why.
Quitter.
Yeah, I know I'm a disappointment.
I mean, why would you not want to slowly poison yourself?
I'm just Breaking Bad style.
I figured one heavy metal poisoning type is probably enough at a time.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah,
Lead
because
or
I got enough
mercury or
lead in
both?
me to yeah.
The sulfur probably isn't all too
yeah.
healthy for you either.
Almost nothing in the Victorian era was healthy for you.
Bring in the
Yeah.
children that the war
Right.
orphans.
Yeah, my
Tuberculosis enters the
orphans.
chat.
But the beauty of the Maynard primer, so they came in rolls, and that's what that little door is. You'd open up the little hatch on the side of the lock, and then you stick in your roll of caps, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Cocking the hammer back automatically will like feed the next percussion cap, basically embedded in this paper, in place. So all you do is just cock the hammer. You don't have to fiddle with the cap. It automatically feeds it.
That had to have been a technological breakthrough.
Yeah, it made a lot of, well, it made enough sense that the ordnance department said, yeah, we want this, and they adopted it across the entire U.S. Army. So the Model 1855 weapon system. So there were three. So there's the rifle musket, which was just a long infantry rifle. Then the rifle, which was a little shorter, intended for the light infantry, and then a pistol, a 58 caliber pistol that had a detachable buttstock on it. Also had the pistol carbine, which was like the worst of both ideas.
For like cav, or what were they going?
Yeah,
for
it was intended for the dragoons. So the concept was, if you're on horseback, you can shoot it like you would, any other horse pistol, and kaboom, and it's 58 caliber. It shoots a slightly smaller version of the same mini ball bullet. I think it's like 450 grains, and it makes sense because if a pistol 450 grains,
Jesus,
you have to stop a horse.
Throw a pumpkin at somebody.
You're a guy on a horse. You got to take out the enemy guy on his horse. So you need something with enough energy, enough power to like literally stop or to piss off a horse enough that he's not going to do whatever the rider on his back is telling him to do. And then when they dismount,
lead out of a fucking pistol.
Yeah. Well, most armies of this era had very similar horse pistols. Like the horse pistol and they're huge. They're
Oh Jesus, dude.
Yeah. It's a musket basically with a pistol grip on it. Yeah. And then it had this detachable buttstock, so that if you're a dragoon and then you need to dismount, and that's how the dragoons normally fought. They didn't fight by riding in with swords or lances. Yeah. They'd ride up to where the battle is, and then they would dismount. So they got there quickly, and then they could engage. Yeah. They put that buttstock on, and now you have a carbine. Instead of
the ramrod is
pistol.
captured as well.
I was just gonna say that. It looks like the ramrod's captured.
Yep.
Right. So that's so you don't lose it when you're on your horse trying to.
Holy shit! I've never seen this before. Yeah, this is really cool.
The fun thing about this gun is that this was the last muzzle-loading single-shot pistol ever adopted for any army. The U.S. Army was the last, because everyone else is going to revolvers. It makes so much more sense. This is 1855. We're well into the revolver era, and we're still running around with a single shot.
Was it 36 is when the revolver came out, when it became mass produced?
Yeah, well, like the Colt 1851, I think was the. I'm not a revolver guy. I sell a million of the bullets. Those little conical revolver bullets, but I shoot them. They're fun, but I just hate cleaning them.
Ironically,
also Jake.
That's not the one, but that's basically the.
I haven't bought one yet.
Me either, but we're going to. Okay, Brett. Jake and I, we were both in the Wisconsin National Guard and shit. And we deployed. Jake went twice. I went once, and we want to eventually get a 2nd Wisconsin Volunteer Infantry Regiment impression together, both of us. And for that, you need a Lorentz. And it's expensive,
and they're out of stock.
Yeah.
Are you looking at the reproductions?
Yes.
Company.
Okay. So do you want one to live fire, or do you want one for reenacting?
Yes.
Okay.
Live fire.
Yes.
So I have 2 Lorenzes. They're both original. One of them has the original barrel. The other one I had lined by Bobby Hoyt. But both of them I paid less, including the one I bought and then had lined. I paid less than the reproduction Pedersoli.
That's what I've told them. Just
So
try and find the
what
original.
I recommend.
Yeah, I'm very
is,
patient. So yeah, if now that we're in the same sphere and we know each other,
Yeah.
it's like it's just know that Jake and I both want to eventually get an impression together, but we need the Lorentz for that.
Right.
And
yeah. Well, there's
I'm
a
really
couple
big
other
on-
options.
I'm really
too.
big on being able to live fire. So,
Oh yeah, that's the same.
Yeah.
All my reenacting guns, I don't blank fire adapt any of them because I'm like I'll just do single shot and say I got a jam because I live fire all of them. I'm like I'm not gonna screw around with a BFA on an M16 or an M1 rifle or a 1903. Well, you know,
and I do have a Thompson Center black powder rifle on the wall back there that I absolutely love shooting.
yeah.
So
So
I love shooting black
Lorens
powder.
are
It's so
fun.
much fun.
Lorens is a very underappreciated rifle.
Well, in Wisconsin, apparently, I don't know the exact logistics or whatever the hell happened back then, but they apparently bought a shitload of them from Austria when they were doing that big.
Right.
A couple states did. A couple states, militia units bought.
It was the third most popular rifle of the war.
Right.
It's right behind the Enfield, and
Right.
so it is really underrepresented in reenacting.
Mhm.
So the Austrians, and I am midway through. I'm doing so. One of my books was called The English Cartridge. It is a 270-page book on the pattern 53 Enfield musket cartridge.
Mhm.
So my most of my sales go to bug exterminator companies because they say they don't have to tent the house. They just put earplugs in and read it out loud, and the bugs die of boredom. But I'm working on the sequel to that, literally the Austrian cartridge. So I tell because everyone's covered the stamps on the gun and the inspector and this mark and then this version.
Yep.
That's been covered. But
This
what
barrel
hasn't really
band.
been covered, the ammunition hasn't been thoroughly covered.
Yep.
And also just the story, where did they come from? What were the Austrians thinking when they put this feature on the gun? Because the Lorenz is a soldier-friendly rifle. It's a couple inches shorter than the Springfield. It's lighter. It has a smaller bore, has a higher muzzle velocity, and there's a bunch of little soldier-friendly aspects of it. The
cheek
funnel,
rest, the sight,
in the German, the Trichterring, or the trumpet ring to put the ramrod back. It's like a blunderbuss shaped cone, so that you put your ramrod back
home?
and it guides it right in.
No shit.
The sight,
I'm looking at it on that
sights, the
reproduction.
long range sights. So in the Type 1 Lorenz has no adjustable slider on the Enfield, on a lot of other guns. You have to move this piece of metal, or you got to move a knob to change the range settings. The Austrian, you flip up that sight and it has 3 apertures, and you go from in the German it's paces, Schritt. You start at 300 Schritt and you go up to 900 Schritt simply by changing your sight picture. So when the enemy's advancing on you, you're being charged by some dudes with bayonets, and they're coming at you, and you're putting fire on them, and you don't have to stop and touch your sights to move it from 500 yards down to 400
You just
yards.
adjust the rifle.
You just adjust, right? You just change your sight picture. So a lot of the small, really thoughtful, I would call soldier friendly. They were really thinking, how do we? And when they adopted it in 1854, and it's the smallest caliber except for the Swiss. The Swiss were doing this really small bore stuff way early, but it's a 54 caliber rifle.
Oh fuck! There it is. Is this it? Brett?
Yeah, that's the.
Holy shit! Dude, that's on the Lorenz.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the Type 2 Lorenz.
Holy
that
fuck! That is so
one
smart.
that I sent you the link
You
to.
change.
That is so smart.
So the soldiers had to be trained on on how to use this site, and it's not exactly intuitive. They probably could have done a better job, maybe with and so depending on how far. So if the enemy is at 350 paces away, you would they would do what they called a fine sight, a full sight, and then I forget what like a standard sight. And by that, it's how far up the front sight post goes in the V notch. So a fine sight,
like the Carcano rifle or Carcano rifles. Later on, they did the same shit with.
Okay, yeah, that's very European in this era that you change your sight picture changes the range. But they would say,
really quick, do you know how much a pace was equivalent to, roughly?
Well, every country had their own different. So the Austrian Schritt is different from the Prussian Schritt. Same thing. The Austrian inch is different than a Prussian inch. Their ounces were different. It's so bad that even like the small countries like Württemberg had their own set of measurements, and they're all fairly close to each other, but they're all different.
It's so fucking
and
unorganized.
a lot of these books,
in
very helpful. Some of these books on rifle muskets in German in this era will have a table of measurement conversions at the front of it. So like a Prussian inch is French how many millimeters, how many English inches, how many Austrian inches.
So do you know how much the Lorenz, the Austrian pace would be?
Don't quote me, but roughly it's about like 75 yards would be 100 Schritt. So it's about 20. Off, it's close to a yard, but it's not close enough that you can just go. It's not like yards and meters where you can out to a certain distance. You can pretty much call them the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
so that's enough. That's like Arshins too. It's like 20 inches.
Right. Yeah. No, exactly the same thing. Yeah. The Russian. It's their pace. The Austrian and Prussian Schritt were fairly close, but not exactly. But I know the Prussian, their 300 paces was really close to 250 yards. Because that's where all the
difference, though.
Yeah, with the Prussians, that's where
goes up the window with the Civil War, because there was no real.
Oh no!
BRM. There was just.
There was none. So 25. The Ordnance Department. After the war, did a serious look back at rifle training. And so this is after the war, they go back, and these guys are still like Civil War veterans are everywhere, and they basically do a survey, like, "Hey, did you serve? What regiment? When did you serve? Hey, when's the first time you fired your gun?" And like 25% of Civil War soldiers never fired their issued weapon until they were in combat.
Yep.
What?
And it is
no BRM.
It is no surprise that the Europeans were looking at the American Civil War, and I get so much grief because if you criticize the American, like the performance of American or Confederate soldiers in the Civil War, it's like you're attacking the holy of holies.
Yep.
I disagree, but so so let's just back this up for a second. 25% of people who fired their weapons in combat in the Civil War had not fired them before the battle.
Yep, that's what they found.
Whoa, man! Like that's a lot of. Oh man, that I did not know that. That's really fucked up.
And among those who did actually shoot before they went into battle, it's like 3 rounds or 5 rounds. There was no extensive like marksmanship training.
It's like Air Force marksmanship. No offense to Air Force marksmanship. You guys don't shoot a lot. You guys don't shoot a lot.
The Air Force marksmanship would be leagues above what Civil War soldiers got. Yeah, there was. It is safe to say that there was no marksmanship or BRM training.
Yeah,
it did not exist in because you get the U.S. Army in 1860 is about 24,000 soldiers.
Yeah.
In 1862, in April, they're at the Battle of Shiloh. Memory doesn't. I don't remember the exact number, but it's somewhere in the ballpark of 35,000 casualties in one battle. There are more casualties in one battle early in the Civil War than there were soldiers in the entire standing United States Army like 18 months before.
Jeez.
So the war starts. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
They cared more about D and C, which back then was more important because it wasn't just parade breast, present arms,
and the army was scattered too. The army, the U.S. Army is a frontier police force.
Yep.
And because we had the luxury, so we end up kind of saddled with just the results of our geographic accident and the results of the birth of our country, where we are opposed to monarchy, we're opposed to spending huge amounts of money on these European standing armies, and the standing armies are enemies to freedom. We remember the British troops being quartered in homes, and like the British troops imposing the king's will. So standing armies are frowned upon. We have this tradition. And then by 1860, we have no enemies. Like if someone wants to invade us, what does France have to do? If we go to war with France for some bizarre reason, or we go to war with England for some reason, they have to pack their army on ships that take 10 or 12 days just to cross the Atlantic, and they have to stage. And then why would they even want to go to war with us? We had no enemies. So we didn't need a standing army. And the army that we did have was just out on the frontier, scattered. So there's the Prussians in 1860, 1861, 1862 are doing army-wide summer maneuvers where they are doing force on force, red versus blue, like real training with full-on like annual training maneuvers. You could say they called up all the reserves, and they did nothing like that in the American Civil War. There's the active duty U.S. Army, in theory, had a rifle marksmanship manual written by Harry Heath, who is best known today for being the Confederate general who starts the Battle of Gettysburg. He writes it, and then he says in his introduction, he says, this is just a translation of the French and a copy of the British rifle manual. And it's never adopted. It's officially it's in the regulation, but the commanders aren't following it. Another problem we had is, so the U.S. Army, 1861, you've got 24,000 soldiers and like something like 1,100 officers. You were a lieutenant in this pre-war tiny army, sometimes for decades. You had to wait for someone to die to be appointed captain. The army was tiny. So you have lieutenants and captains. So finally you're a captain. You're a company commander in 1860. And you went to West Point in like 1845. Back when there were no rifles, when there only were smoothbore muskets. And that's the war that you were taught. You were taught how to fight. We still have Scott's infantry manual. We have, everyone thinks of Hardee's tactics. Hardee's light infantry tactics. They weren't even for the like rank and file of the main body of the infantry, which were still using these smoothbore tactics. So the war starts 1861. A third of the army goes Confederate, and then you raise volunteers. So you're basically bringing in hundreds of thousands, north and south, of people who have no military experience, including all of your officers. A lot of your officers are elected by their soldiers. So basically, who's the the coolest guy? Okay, you're the captain now. He knows nothing. There's an excellent book called With the Sword in One Hand and Jomini in the Other, written recently. And that the title of the book is after a fairly well-known quote. So Jomini was a Swiss-French military writer who, after the Napoleonic Wars, went and basically like wrote down, here's all of Napoleon's rules for war. And it was, so in the 1860, like, this is how you do war. You know, it's called The Art of War by Jomini. And the generals in the Civil War are like not literally, but figuratively going in battle with a sword in one hand and then Jomini's Art of War in the other, because they're learning this from scratch. They had not been soldiers. Right. Look at a guy like Dan Sickles, who's a Washington politician who blows away Francis Scott Key's son or nephew or something in broad daylight in Washington, D.C., gets acquitted because he's the first person to ever use the temporary insanity defense. Blows away this guy in broad daylight in front of witnesses, and he walks scot-free. And he shoots, I think, was it his son of Francis Scott Key, the guy who wrote the national anthem? He blows his son away on the streets of D.C. in broad daylight and gets acquitted. No military experience. A couple of years later, he's commanding, like, you know, a division, or was it a corps? I think Sickles had a corps. He's a corps commander in the U.S. Army. A couple of years later, no military experience.
Nope.
And this is the same for basically all of the soldiers. The Confederates, I will concede a small advantage that some of the more rural Western Southern men may have been more familiar with firearms. Something like a third of the Union Army was foreign born. They weren't even born. They're from Ireland. They're from England. They're from Germany. They're from Norway.
PGT Beauregard. I think that was in your book, where he served prior in the British Army.
Oh, you're thinking of Cleburne. Yeah, Patrick Cleburne, Confederate.
I thought PGT Beauregard.
No, I think Beauregard was born in the U.S., but Patrick Cleburne he was Irish, so he was born in Ireland. But like a lot of, like, if you're born in Ireland and the potato famine's going on, it's like, what do you do? Well, join the British Army. You know, at least I won't starve.
Yeah.
And Cleburne, so he was in the Army in Tennessee. Of course, he's a private in the British Army. He never rose above private, or he may have been a corporal. But we're not talking, you know, he's not an officer. He's not a colonel in the British Army.
No.
And then now he's a general, a Confederate general, but he remembers back, like, we actually got trained on how to shoot, because in the British Army, like, so in 1859 in the British Army, every single British soldier fired 90 rounds a year in their rifle qualification. Now, I remember, well, they gave me a 9mm now. Like, I don't get a rifle anymore, but I remember, you know, when Specialist Gibbons was running around in the Army Reserve, we'd go qual once a year. You know, we're logistics pogues. You know, we're not we're not 11 Bravo. We're logistics. So our entire ammo shooting for the years, once a year we went to the range to qual, and you got 18 rounds to 0 and then 40 rounds to shoot the qual. So 58 rounds in the U.S. Army. And so it's a little bit better now, but back, like, my first deployment in 2013 or 2012, 2013. That's all we did at Mob Site was, okay, go qual. We shot 58 rounds. Like, you're ready to go to war now. You know?
It wasn't much different in the infantry.
The British Army in 1859 is firing almost twice as many rounds annually as the U.S. Army is in 2013.
Holy shit, I didn't even think about that. So, like, you said 90 what rounds?
90 rounds a year. So that's for
the infantry. So don't worry about being a pogue, whatever. Bravo and I were both infantry, but, like, and Smitty, of course, was a fucking mommy's princess. But, like, but no. So we get 40 rounds for rifle qual. I think we get, like, what was it, like 10 or 20 for 0?
18
for. Oh my God, you're right. I didn't even think about that.
So if you do
The only way you got more than
how
the
far
only
out?
way you got. What's that?
How far out? Think about that too.
The British?
No, on both sides. Our wall was 300 yards.
300 meters,
Brett,
right?
Brett, go how far out the British went.
900 yards.
No way.
British infantry.
900 fucking yards?
In 1850. So the British, and this is why I'm also like the everything they did. So, and we all, by the way, in 1861, at the end of 1861 and early 1862, we came this close to going to war with the British because of incidents that happened at sea between British ships that we thought were like aiding the Confederacy and U.S. Navy warships. Like, we are stopping British ships. So we're coming so close to war. If we had gone to war, the British were sending troops to Canada. Like, okay, fine. They would have utterly cleaned our clocks. It would have been like the U.S. Army versus the Iraq Army in 1991. You know, like a expertly trained, technologically advanced, really cohesive, professional volunteer force versus, you know, a bunch of guys who got pulled into the army a few months ago. The British established in 1853. So before the U.S. Army even had a rifle, in 1853, only like specialized troops in the U.S. Army. We had the Mississippi rifle, and we had the Hall rifle. That's it. The rank and file of the infantry had its smoothbore musket. In 1853,
was a lot of those 69 caliber? Just
they're all 69 caliber, mostly model 1842 smoothbore musket.
Okay.
1853, the British adopt a new rifle musket. Of course, that's the Enfield, the P-53 Enfield. And they open what was called the School of Musketry. And this was a train-the-trainer site where the theory was every regiment of infantry in the British Army will send some officers to this school and NCO. So there were officers and NCO instructors of musketry in every regiment, permanent assigned position. That's what you did. You're the musketry instructor for this regiment. You would get sent to the school at Hythe, and it was a 4-month course. This isn't a quick 2-week turn and burn. You're out there learning intimately all about shooting fundamentals, all about judging distances, and the program of rifle training in the British Army. And then you went back to your unit and trained your unit based on what you learned at the School of Musketry. And you,
what level of unit when they would go back? Was
regiment.
It company or regiment?
Regiment.
Holy
every
shit.
regiment. Yeah, the company didn't have a musketry instructor, but the regiment did, which in combat they'd be called a battalion. That's a very famous photo of. So you can see the United States in that photo. The U.S. is on the other side. That's Niagara Falls.
That's Niagara Falls.
It's no coincidence that they're taking this photo there with America in the back because they're getting ready to come over.
Yeah.
And these guys, they have British regiment with P-53 Enfield rifles. And they even sent one of the chief instructors of the School of Musketry over to Canada to do refresher rifle training in Canada for these guys as they are getting ready to go to war with the United States. And the only reason that war probably didn't, because the British demanded an apology and then the U.S. demanded an apology. Like, both sides are saying you need to apologize. And our Secretary of State, Seward, got drunk at a party, and he may or may not have known that, of all people, there's a reporter for the British Times, the London Times, a reporter, the most famous reporter. It would be like having like Walter Cronkite in the room with you. Like, William Howard Russell, the most famous news reporter in the world at this time. And he's at a party in Washington, D.C. with the Secretary of State. and someone is asking Seward about, well, what's going on with this crisis, between the British? And Seward says, if the British want war, then we will wrap the world in flames. Is what he says. And then William Howard Russell is like with his little notebook going, oh, okay. He writes it down, telegraphs. Well, he doesn't telegraph. It actually has to go. There was a telegraph before the Civil War. It burned out. And so then it had to go back to a steamship. But he like writes it down, writes a letter. 12 days later, they're printing this in England. Like, hey, the American Secretary of State says, bring it on, bitch, basically. We don't care. We'll go to war with you too. And the British are like, and they start sending troops and stuff to Canada. And the only reason it didn't come to war was Lincoln himself said, he assembled his cabinet and said, like, WTF, guys, let's do one war at a time, okay?
Fair. I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Like, so what he does.
Too bad we didn't learn that lesson in the 2000s.
Yeah, let's pump the brakes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, now it's just like one war at a time forever. But he told Seward, like, look, you have to apologize to the British. And so he writes a letter and he says, we regret that this incident occurred. And the British get it. And then the British government this is not an apology. And the British are very concerned because they're a tiny little island with a global empire. And if anyone is able to like stop British ships at sea and board them and like confiscate people and stuff from British ships and get away with it, that sends a message that they were not going to tolerate. So they were ready to throw down. This is the hill to die on. But Prince Albert, so Queen Victoria's husband, right before he died, so he's extremely sick, he says, he convinces Victoria and the British government, he says, look, the Americans are giving us an out. They say they regret this happened. Let's say we regret it happens too, and then say, well, don't do it again. And they said, good enough for us. And so war is averted, but it came really close to having British troops pouring across Niagara into Buffalo, New York. And how do you think that like the New York State militia up there,
who was mostly deployed, and the ones who weren't were using fucking exactly.
It would have been just a nightmare.
and off topic, at the beginning of the war, they were wearing gray. That was their color for the New York militia, was gray.
Interesting.
Confusing at Manassas? Nah. But I figured we'd show how his primers worked here.
Yeah. Let's show this really quick. You want to full screen it?
You have to give it that last little tap.
My primers are getting pretty reliable, but every now and then one of them won't go off.
So like you said, it's just like the cap gun. There's the tape.
Fucking man.
The hammer, like it's pretty interesting. Not only does it cap the primer, but it also cuts the tape off as well.
Yeah, I can see that it's got a little.
So that one obviously didn't go off, but all you do is cock the hammer again.
It just pops it right up. Yeah, look at that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is a smooth bore as well. It's been a conversion.
No, that's a rifle.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah. It's the rifled 1816.
Okay.
So it started life as a smoothbore. It started life as a flintlock smoothbore, and they went back, rifled it, and then stuck that Maynard percussion lock on it. Okay. I need to work up a decent load. It has a perfect bore, and I'm not just throwing that word out. It is. It looks like it came off the factory yesterday.
No shit.
It's a perfect bore. So clearly, it wasn't used very much.
There is a delay like a flintlock, a slight delay.
That one had a bit of a delay.
Huh.
So I made this video kind of
that
in
is so cool.
haste. This
No,
is
I
maybe
got you, man. Yeah.
3
I get
weeks
it.
after I got home from deployment.
Yeah.
And I just
One
wanted
of the
to.
advantages of the Maynard system is if one of the primers doesn't go off, just haul the hammer back, advance another primer, and off you go.
Yeah,
Damn,
they're much more reliable now. This was like first generation primer, and it was figuring out how to make the right mixture, the percussion mixture.
Yep.
And then I figured out how to pack more of the stuff into the actual little paper primer pockets.
Sure.
So yeah, now they're really hot, and they'll set it off every time.
No, it looks like because it's like even the ones that didn't fire it, you could still see the shit spin out from the side. You can still see the ignition, but it just.
How much risk is there of the flash jumping back through the paper to the next primer?
There's a little spring that acts kind of like a trap door inside the lock that shields the. So you only really have 2 primers exposed. You have the one that's actually being fired, and then you have the one next to it. Even the one next to it doesn't go off.
You can see the carbon right here where it's
I saw that.
But there's 2 springs. There's one here.
Yeah.
One pushes it, and the other one is like a shield.
It's the perfect example of an 1850s good idea fairy, because it really makes sense if you think about the advantage. I mean, you can shoot it faster, and we're also thinking we need a gun that needs to be able to work in Texas and in North Dakota in the middle of winter.
In the chat, Slick South just brought that up. I imagine moisture is an issue versus a cap.
Right. Well, that's what doomed it was. If they had a modern waterproofing, like acrylic kind of polyurethane, it would probably work really, really well. But then all they had is like a shellac varnish, and it just couldn't really seal the tapes up. So they were withdrawn from service, right? So that the model 1855 rifle musket that has that tape primer,
this big
is
guy
essentially
almost
the 1861 Springfield, just without the Maynard primer lock. Everything else about it is pretty much identical.
And this is another one that I think you went above and beyond as far as, because I was showing them earlier that this is.
This is the cool thing with the Lorenz. We're talking about smokeless powder. The Austrians were really, really close to going to a gun cotton cartridge for their Lorenz in the 1860s, like 1862, 1863. They are really seriously saying we're going to have a smokeless powder rifle in the 1860s. It is kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, this is insane. If you want to full screen it, Trey.
And that's it.
I think I can faintly hear the Kaiser hymn in the distance.
You're a fucking nerd. I love it.
Oh, I am the most unapologetic nerd there is.
You're among family then.
Hi, I'm
Now
Brett from papercartridges.com.
that is
and if you have
weak.
no idea
If that
what you're
report
watching, That was the
sounds
first
pretty
shot of
weak.
the recreated Austrian
It's-
gun cotton cartridge.
I'm
for the
afraid to
Model
pack
1854
too much
Lorenz.
gun cotton into
I
this
just did a
old
video
gun.
on the history of this fascinating cartridge. I'll put the link in the description. But here's the 10-second.
It made it out of the war. That's all that matters.
I'm curious though. What happens to the dowel? Does that stay with the projectile, or
No, it separates and it drops off maybe 20, 30 yards.
So it's basically
You
essentially a
find them
wad
in the
like in a
ground.
shotgun.
In summary,
So
in
the reason
1850s
for
and
that
60s,
stick
the Austrians experimented with
is
gun cotton.
you if the gun cotton gets compressed, it burns faster and generates higher pressure. And in a black powder gun that was built for black powder pressures, that's catastrophic. You've turned your gun into a grenade.
Oh, so that was to prevent from overpacking.
Correct. That stick physically prevents the gun cotton from being compressed. Yeah.
I think I've actually watched this video.
Yeah, I think we watched
quite a
it
while
before,
ago.
'cause Trey was showing this sometime back, and I was like,
Yeah, like a year ago or something.
It was a while back, yeah.
Which is basically nitrocellulose smokeless powder. They developed this cartridge. It makes no
so
smoke.
cool.
It had real high velocity. You didn't need to use the ramrod, and the cartridges worked great. But they couldn't figure out how to safely store and manufacture the ammunition, and the Civil War cut off Austria's supply of cotton, so they went back to black powder.
where they go north?
So did
You
so
just drop it down the muzzle. That's it.
You just drop
the Lorenz.
Yep.
So they were using that in Austria, but they just said they couldn't import cotton. Did gun cotton ever get used by the U.S. in the U.S. during the Civil War?
So everyone experiments with it. So it gets discovered in the 1840s by a Swiss German chemist named Schönbein. And the story, so there's an apocryphal story. I don't know if it's true or not, but the legend is that, so he is a chemist at the University of Basel. So he's a real actual, he's not just an alchemist, bubble, toil and trouble over this cauldron. But apparently he's in his kitchen at home, and he's playing around with, harmless household chemicals like sulfuric acid and nitric acid, and he mixed them together, as one does, but then he spills them, and this spilled all over the place. And he's like, oh crap, because I guess his wife had told him, you can't be mixing the stuff in my kitchen anymore. And I guess the wife was out shopping or something. So he's like, I got to clean this up. And he grabs the first thing he can find. It's his wife's apron. And he soaks this mess of acid up in the apron. And now this apron is dripping with sulfuric and nitric acid. And he's like, well, crap, I guess I'll put it next to the oven to dry.
Mm.
Oh, no, bullshit.
This is the apocryphal story.
This is the story. Okay, I'm sorry. Yep,
yeah,
I'm sorry I interrupted. Yep.
It's printed all over the place, like in chemistry textbooks. Like, this is how he discovered. I don't buy it, because Schönbein, first of all, I've never found any source for this in English or German before about 1960. Suddenly, that's when it appears. There's nothing in the 19th century that says it, and he has a lab. He's a professor at the University of Basel, and he discovered ozone, the like chemical compound, the molecule.
Okay.
He discovered, like, he is a eminent chemist, and but it's a funny story for how he supposedly. But that's what gun cotton is. It is cotton that has been nitrated in a nitric acid bath, and it chemically converts the cotton from being cotton to nitrocellulose. So we still use it. So basically, it's a single base smokeless powder.
So is that the same as Sharp's ammunition?
Did they use gun cotton? They might have.
Not gun cotton, but the paper itself, like nitrated gun paper.
No, that's so nitrated paper is simply soaking paper and saltpeter,
Okay.
which helps it burn.
Somebody in chat asked, "Is it easier to clean than black powder?"
Oh yeah, yeah. There's no so gun cotton pretty much, just it's a smokeless powder. Think of it's a single base smokeless powder.
Okay.
So it leaves no residue to speak of. My gun cotton, of course, I am not making it the way that like a laboratory or a government factory would. I kind of have to make it the backyard hobbyist way, and mine is pretty corrosive. So I shot it, and then you got to
Immediately.
clean. It's basically like shooting a corrosive primer. The historic gun cotton was not
run
that
some hot
corrosive.
water down it, get the salt
Windex.
out, and then
Windex.
Yep. Yeah. Any
Fucking hot
whatever
water.
Ballastol, whatever you want to use will work
whatever.
great.
It's like just get the fucking salts neutralized and out of the
just
fucking barrel.
clean it. That's what drives me crazy with these Civil War reenactors. With these, just clean this thing. But you can see
literally
here in
use
this
hot water
diagram,
and a fucking swab. Yeah,
hot water works great. Everyone's kind of afraid of putting water.
It really
in.
does. It's like when I first got into it when I was a teenager, I was like, "Oh yeah, I gotta have oil, this, that, and the other to clean it." And I was like, "Because being young, you're like, hot water in metal will rust."
sure.
But when you get
Here's the
into
thing.
it,
All you do is what?
It's
Yeah, I'm sorry, Trey, to interrupt, but like, because I made a video about this and people still fucking make an issue of it with like corrosive ammo that I shoot through like modern, small bore rifles, or more modern than what we're talking about, I should say. I literally just run hot water down it, and then I just run a bore snake through it just to dry it out.
Yep.
I've never had fucking rust or anything, any corrosion, by doing those two steps. That's it. You don't even have to clean the son of a bitch. You don't have to oil it. You just hot water, bore snake.
It's like magic, man. Like I said, I put my water in the coffee maker. No coffee or nothing. It just make it as hot as possible.
Yeah.
Pour it down a funnel, and it comes out like you just keep pouring it, shake it up, run a swab through it once or twice, and it comes out clean. Really clean.
And I think
all
it's the
of
same
these
for black
guns,
powder, is it not, Brett?
Exactly, and all of these rifles were cleaned with water. So if water damages the barrels, then there should be no original gun in decent condition anywhere, because that's all they used.
With logic like that, I mean, it sounds like you should make a video on that.
It really did shock me as a teenager or a preteen when I was first started off. Like, I was like, I'm just gonna put a bunch of Pops number 9 through the fucking barrel, but no, as hot as you can stand it on your skin. Pour down the barrel, and the sulfur will literally just crumble away. If
you're really worried about water, then there's a legitimate use for WD-40. That's a water displacement. It's not a lubricant, but if you're really, really, really worried that I might have some water left in my barrel, just WD-40 and then patch it out. Water works. That's all they ever used historically. The British manual says, clean with water, warm if possible. So they're just
So you
pouring
cold
water.
Yep. You can piss in it. That'll also that will
be
also
very,
neutralize the
very,
salts.
very careful pissing in a barrel if it's hot.
Well, I mean, I guess not everybody has as good as aim as I do, and is
carbine versus rifle. It is what it is. I've got a rifle, believe me.
I can fit into a 36 caliber, no problem. Anything smaller, you're gonna have an issue. Huge.
Hey, you be careful, because I'll get my buddy Senator Mastriano to sue you.
Oh, you saw that?
Oh, I told him.
You saw that shit?
He's my state senator.
Where's James when you need him?
We're friends with James.
Oh God,
dude. Yeah, I mean, hey.
Speaking of, we're friends with James.
Yeah, have you read his book by chance, Brett?
I haven't. I've been kind of poking around on your channel.
It's on Amazon.
But it sounds right up my alley of
It's James is I know like I know him in
not
real
that
life.
I'm too much into World War One, but
That's kind of my World War One and we're in Vietnam is kind of my thing. Those are my two eras that I'm okay at. Pretty good at. But like James is really good at it doesn't matter what time period, he's really good at getting he's a good historian.
right.
Like and writing about it. I'm not good at writing about it because I've never done it, but like James is like there's no fluff when he writes. It's just
What's
this,
his title?
and here's the evidence.
What's his title at the museum? Is he the director?
He's a director of the museum at LSU.
There you go.
So so he works in Baton Rouge at the museum there at Louisiana State University, and he's not even 30 yet, and he's already got that title. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
he's about to get his PhD as well. He's a cool dude. You'd like him, man. Again, you fit right in. Like we're all fucking nerds, and we're good at our own little niches. And like, you know, James is a really cool dude. I wish he was on, but of course.
Yeah. Well, I'm fascinated by World War One, but I don't have. I have, I would say, a very good like working knowledge, but I'm not like I can't tell you what divisions we're fighting, you know, at Passchendaele or Ypres or the Somme. Like I don't have that level of a great army term, that level of granularity on the First World War, but the larger context.
So fucking vast. You're never gonna know all that shit. You have to It's like World War II. It's so vast and encompasses so many macro level issues. You almost have to kind of like zoom in and specialize on one thing. And World War One is
makes
just like
me
that.
Angry. Yeah. Like I can't study the First World War without getting like mad.
It's really frustrating. It's really. There's been a lot of times where I've had to walk away for months of a certain topic that I'm researching and diving into because I'm like, that was so fucking retarded. That was so stupid and unnecessary.
And, you see the death of the old world over 4.5 years. And we are still I argue World War One influenced the world much more than World War II.
Yes, I agree.
We're still living in a world 100 good grief, what are we now? 110 years past the start of the war.
110.
We're living in a world that World War One created. Like the powers that won World War One are still, you could almost argue, kind of the top dogs still.
All I know is the M1 Grand Ping killed a lot of GIs.
Oh yeah. Oh, did you read what's his name's book? I showed Trey that there's a book by Dunlap. Have you heard of Roy or Ron Dunlap?
I've heard of him.
He is like the great granddaddy ancestor of every boomer FUD. Because he says
we're officially in the fucking club, dude.
Yeah. So
he's like saying many a good
get him a Discord invite.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Many a good GI died because of the ping from his M1 clip. Like told the Japanese soldier he was empty, and then he jumped up and shot him. And like he has that in print, and he's writing as an authority. Like I was there, and he is a combat veteran. He was.
Yep.
But he's like, so we all know there are all things that I'm assuming everyone here at some point had some military service. I know Mike and Trey did.
Jake was. I was deployed with our Bravo.
There is like lore and legend that when like Specialist Gibbons would have believed it was true. So there's but that now I know, well, that wasn't true at all. It was like just a myth that we all like kind of believed.
So
And
here's a
so
question regarding these this exact type
I'm gonna
of
take a
myth.
piss. I'll be right back, but I'll still listen.
No balls, you won't do it. No balls.
How is it that these myths that are very easily disproven have made it into the historical lexicon?
I think they're simple.
I mean, it could have happened. I'm not saying they did not happen. A guy did a video on it. I could probably pull it up later on YouTube. He tested it.
Yeah, it was
I think the
Bloke
one
on the Range.
Yeah, that's it. But what you're talking about in Japan or in the PTO, maybe, yeah, like just some suicidal Japanese soldier was like, I'm going to wait till I hear the ping and then I'm just going to rush. Could have happened, yeah. I'm guaranteed it probably did. But as Bloke in the Range did, like between, especially in the ETO, where you've been bombarded with CAS, artillery, and then a whole squadron of men, company, battalion, etc., firing, and you hear one single ping. There's no way. There's no way. But I mean, between me and you, like we're just like quote unquote paintballing, just playing in the field or whatever, firing. You might hear my ping, but I call BS. There's no way. Because I mean, where in either the PTO or the ETO do you hear just one jackass with an M1 going ping, and then you or a whole another squad of Germans like, homeboy's out, let's charge him.
Yeah, in his book, he's like describing a hypothetical scenario where like a Marine is going into one of the caves in Iwo Jima, and it's like a one-on-one. There's one Japanese soldier like waiting, and then the American is just kind of firing blindly into the dark, and then ping, and then that's when the Japanese soldier launches out with his samurai sword, and like that's kind of what he's.
My question to that would be, okay, so what you just described is in a fucking cave, right? First of all, even if the guy had one fucking round left, M2 ball, it's fairly fucking loud outside of a cave.
Yeah, you're not going to hear
neither one of those fuckers is going to be able to hear. All they're going to hear is
the ping. The ping you're hearing is the fucking tinnitus.
It's tinnitus. Yeah. That's what it is. It's not the fucking ping of the clip flying out. You'd have to physically observe that and go, "Oh damn, did I get lucky?" Boom.
It's a throwaway statement too in his book. Like he doesn't have a chapter on like the ping that killed 5,000 Americans. It's a throwaway comment that, oh yeah, many an American GI lost his life because the ping let the Japanese soldier hiding nearby know that he was empty, which begs the question, well, where's the rest of his unit? Like there's one American soldier just Rambo all by himself.
Yeah.
And then is he also just blazing away with his rifle until he's empty? And like, there's so many questions. I don't even think he says so many fanciful. So the name of the book is called Ordnance Went Up Front. And I bought the book because I was an ordnance officer. Now I'm even extra pogue as a logistics officer. But as ordnance, I thought, oh, ordnance went up front. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, we do. We're important too, And I bought this book.
Did you get lost?
It is. If you read it like a novel, it's a great read because the guy is, and this might actually be one of the first documented cases of the use of the phrase "gun nut," where he self-describes himself. And I want to say he published this book, "Ordnance Went Up Front," in like 1946 or 1947. And he says in the introduction, it's like, I'm a gun nut. I love guns. I love shooting. I'm a nerd, deep expert. And he ended up like working and maintaining it. Lots of small arms involvement during the war. It's a fun read, but I wouldn't put much faith in the veracity of every one of his little, oh yeah, and this happened, and oh yeah, you know,
Of course.
Smitty Barnes said once that, oh yeah, he heard that so and so got killed because the Japanese soldier heard the ping, and like all these little legends came and just got believed.
They got blown out of proportion, man.
Oh,
like,
dude.
it's like common knowledge. So, what is your really quick, Brett? I want to ask you, what is your opinion on the Garand thumb? Not the YouTuber, the actual thing of getting your thumb stuck in an M1 rifle while loading it.
If you've had anything more than literally 2 minutes of instruction, like this is how it works, you have to almost try to get, like, do it to yourself deliberately with an M1.
From what I've seen, almost every M block clip. I mean, obviously I didn't serve in World War II, but for every time I've inserted an M block clip, the clip itself is so tight that you have to smack the bolt forward.
Yep.
Now, however, maybe in the heat of combat, where maybe the M block clips have loosened up or something that you do, and you're focusing on your target or the zone, maybe it will, but I don't know. Like I said, almost every time for reenactments or live fire, when I shove the clip in, the bolt goes click. Yeah, I've got the bullet.
And then you smack the fucking charging handle forward.
Smack the bolt forward, then go.
I could see it if it was a weapon that was either mechanically damaged or just worn out. Because I have handled an M1 Garand where sometimes the bolt would catch the bullet and just stop, and other times it would just slam closed.
But then again, if you're trained properly,
them.
where you shove it, like when you have your hand in, you shove the bolt in with your thumb.
Yeah,
your pinky should catch that bolt. But then again, in the heat of combat, I don't know. I was excited.
You might not be doing it properly in the heat of combat.
Well, and also, like, it does depend. Like, I'm not saying it didn't ever happen. I'm just saying it's not as fucking commonplace.
No.
I mean, we're gonna do that. Oh God, because I've owned a few M1s in my life, right? They're kind of back here behind me.
Grab one. Grab one.
Jamie, pull it up. Come on, grab the M1. Grab the other one, Jamie. But I've never even so I have had a couple clips that were a little bit more worn because I've used them over again.
Yeah.
I don't even do this thing. I don't even do that. Even though that's what the manual says, and I actually don't disagree with that. That's a good practice to have. So even if I don't do that and I just go pop, it'll pop down and then it'll start just sliding it forward, and I have more than enough fucking time to get my thumb out of the way.
Throw your thumb out the way, yeah.
So I just don't understand.
Yeah. All of the clips would have been brand new.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So to go back to this is one of your, in my opinion, one of your grand masterpieces as it were.
You want to full screen it? Thank you.
There it is.
Is this the Whitworth?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's kind of lagging right now.
I contemplated on getting one just because I don't know if we've talked that much about it. I live in Appomattox. I'm part of the Appomattox Petersburg Preservation Society, so it's our forte is Petersburg to the Appomattox end.
Okay.
At the Cumberland Church, which is more than likely, or more than there was Pritchett rounds, Confederate Pritchett rounds found in campfires. So they had these Pritchett rifles to the end, more than so. So I was contemplating on buying one. Yeah, but they're like $2,300 now, or whatever they are.
Yeah.
But I wanted to grab one just to say, hey, to present, hey, this is what the Confederacy had. Certain units had these at this battle. They were used for sharpshooting, aka in the Civil War sniping.
At
But
most, a few dozen is all the Confederates had of the Whitworths. Yeah.
Yeah. So this would be something that this is the type of bullet that we found at least the round version, not the octagon barrel version, in some campfires near Cumberland Church. But yeah, this round that you researched is phenomenal.
It's the first. You could say the first sub MOA rifle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you demonstrate that in this video.
Yeah,
I
I think it
recall
has a,
correctly.
yeah, it has a
Yeah.
Yeah, this is out in the. This is in California when I could go out in the
Yep.
in the desert and.
there
So
it
was
is.
that about 500 yards that you were shooting at, like in that steel, and then you did 500 yards? Okay,
somewhere in the video, I think I say how far away it is.
500
It's something
yards
like that.
with any modern rifle getting that group is fucking impressive. So that's insane that you did that with that rifle.
Yeah, that was a steel target. It's basically a torso silhouette size. So maybe
18
2
by
feet,
36. Yeah.
something a little bit bigger than that. It's
Okay, yeah.
It's
But
probably
still,
maybe it's torso size, generous.
yeah, I mean,
size.
500 yards. People don't realize how fucking small the target is at 500 yards. So that's really cool. Yeah, let's watch him shooting it.
1853 infield looked like the old smoothbore Brown Bess in comparison. However,
So this is the problem, and I had to change the music because YouTube had a problem with the music I used to use. But for a military rifle, it took forever to load, and that was one of the reasons why it never. The British adopted them in small numbers, only experimentally. They never they fielded them to units as like a full-time test bed. But
Kind of like
they
the
decided
XM8 or some shit like that, or the Scar,
yeah,
you know, where they're
and
like,
they tested them right through the late 1860s. They love everything about like the velocity, the accuracy, everything is great. But mid 1860s, they realized muzzle loaders they're obsolete. Breech loaders are coming in, so they ended up just going with a breech loader. This is my friend Daryl. You're gonna cringe when he looks down the barrel. I'm like,
I'm not gonna cringe. I've seen a lot worse.
Yeah,
it could be worse. He could be spitting a ball down the barrel.
it could be. At least there's no bullet in the barrel yet. You know, it's just powder.
Yeah. Flash burns. It doesn't hurt.
Makes a neat pattern on your face. Looks like he has freckles. Yeah. I also love the hooded front sight.
Yeah, that's a modern feature. They
Okay.
probably would not have had the hooded front sight on the original rifle.
Now I brought that up earlier when we were talking about this because I was showing them the cartridge. Was the cone brass on the ramrod? Was that for the crown? Was that original too, or was that something modern?
No, that would not have been on the military version of the Whitworth. Yeah.
Okay. I thought this was the fact, but I wasn't sure.
It would have been a lot funnier for the gag if he would have pulled the cup of tea out of his tunic too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So what he's doing is if you load it without the military cartridge, you the powder in, then wads, then the bullet. So you end up having to ram stuff down the barrel twice. And this makes the rifle very accurate, but it also takes a long time. It's much faster, like you saw me earlier shooting it with the Enfield rifle. You're not having to deal with these wads. The small bore rifles, until they discovered that they could reduce fouling by changing the density of the gunpowder, they would foul up. So you had to make them shoot. You had to have this extra wad, like a wool wad soaked in grease to help clear the fouling out. And in this diagram, you can kind of see that wool wad on the left side there under the bullets. Like it's got this wad of wax and grease to help clean the bore out from the fouling. Otherwise, it would just build up too quickly. But figuring out how to combine all those elements you need. So you need the wads, the felt with the grease in it, and the bullet. And you got to find a way to put it into a cartridge. You can see just how complex that cartridge was to make. Like it's got all these different. So it was never as efficient as a regular rifle musket. But on the other hand, it was much more accurate. Just it was just a lot more trouble to load.
Yeah, I think there's only like one photo of a Confederate scoped rifle.
Right.
There's like one guy that's got one, but the rest of them, I believe, are iron sight. So one of the commenters, he's talking to you, Brett. Is it true that the infamous attic shooters at the Battle of Gettysburg used 2-band Enfield rifles?
Well, we know at least some of them did. So at Gettysburg, so my shop actually is right on Baltimore Street and Breckenridge. The building that my shop in was hit by rifle fire during the battle, and Confederate sharpshooters of Rhodes' division did occupy that section of the town, and we know the guy named Eugene Blackford was the commander of this sharpshooter battalion, and we know that they were armed with the 2-band Enfield, and they liked the 2-band Enfield because it has a faster twist rifling and it has 5-groove rifling, and the sharpshooters really liked it. It's just a slightly more accurate rifle, and they have that British-made Enfield 2-band rifles, and they're also using imported British-made ammunition, so that they knew this ammo will shoot to the sights. So if we set our rifle sights at 300 yards, we're using the cartridge that was designed for that rifle, so it's going to actually hit what we're aiming at 300 yards. And they did have the Enfield rifles with the English ammunition. That's what they were, at least Blackford's sharpshooter battalion of Rhodes' division. So every division was allocated a battalion of sharpshooters in the Confederate Army on paper. Not everyone actually fielded them, but Rhodes did, and Major Blackford commanded this the sharpshooter battalion at Gettysburg, and they were right there on Baltimore Street, shooting at the Union troops on Cemetery Hill, which is maybe 450 yards away. There's a video on my channel about one of the bullets that the landlord pulled out of the attic of my shop. That was and it says like, yeah, a Union soldier shot my shop. But
Are you actually in Gettysburg?
Yeah, yep. I live in Gettysburg.
Oh, how long have you been there?
4 years or so.
Okay, so you weren't there when I was there.
Yeah,
it's kind of a big deal.
You weren't there, Brett. You weren't there.
I wasn't there. Well, I bought this house almost 5 years ago, but 2 out of those years I was deployed.
There's something eerie about Gettysburg. I don't know if it was, I don't know what it was, but when I went there When was that? It had to have been. It had to have been 10 years ago now, because I was driving motor coach at the time. I took a tour group there, but actually standing on the battlefield where the Wisconsin Second blunted the Confederate advance in the woods, and then going to Little Round Top, and then standing on the artillery line. It's like there's something eerie there. That place has memory.
Yeah.
But in the chat, it said that I was telling, I think Mike B earlier about it, one of the other members. Guy asked, wasn't John Sedgwick killed by Whitworth at Spotsylvania? That's, from my understanding, the consensus. He said
would
the
think
comment
so.
something about they couldn't hit an elephant at this distance or whatnot, and within a few
Right.
minutes he was shot down. Supposedly the entrance wound was octagonal. That's the rumor, the myth, etc. But yeah, I can see that. I mean, he was a general, double-breasted sword, possibly struck down by a Whitworth rifle.
I think so, because the accounts from the people who were there all said that the bullets were making a whistling
Yeah.
sound,
Oh, yeah.
like an unusual whistling sound. So this was it's Spotsylvania was it May of 1864, June of
so, yeah.
64? Memory is a little blurry.
Yeah,
but
that's about right.
Like, these soldiers had been they've been under fire before. They know what a mini ball from a regular rifle musket sounds like.
Speaking of, let's do that real quick.
Oh, yeah.
They knew what the sound was of a regular, and they all noted, like, these things are making a whistling sound, and that hexagonal shaped bullet did make the artillery even more so, from the Whitworth artillery. They were really known for making a very loud whistling sound as they go downrange,
like a rocket almost. Yeah, like a fucking weird. Yeah, I can imagine that though.
I'm trying to ask you on food, but it won't work. Yeah, it won't work.
You're shit in the bed, Jamie.
I'm trying
You're
my
shit in the bed.
best.
You're shit in the bed. Pull it up, Jamie. Pull it up. Pull it up. You gotta find it, Jamie. Come on. The world, everybody's depending on you. Come on.
You think Cody can do it?
Which one are you looking for?
It's the one where you're shooting at the metal plate, and you could hear the zip just for
Yeah, I think you'll find that on my friend Daryl's channel, the Ministry for History.
Yeah.
I don't think that's on my channel. I might have put a clip of that on one of my videos.
Right on. Yeah.
But yeah, you hear the sound. And then what's really cool.
Loud B. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be one of his one of his very first videos.
He's got a great channel too. The only contemplation that I have is Grant. He doesn't. Yeah. Like he's whittling that stick like it owes him money, man. But yeah, this is a very, like, I've shown this to Mike and
yeah.
Turn the volume up.
Yeah.
Don't tell me
volume all the way up and full screen it, please.
That's so ballsy. You see what I have to do with Brett?
Those were my 4-foot square steel targets.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh. Yep.
Could you imagine standing there listening to those things coming at you?
Fuck that. Nope. Not fun.
We hit it again, I think, at some point.
Yep.
Fuck that. That's not a fun sound to hear.
I mean, I don't know if there's a video on it, but
sounds like a motorcycle driving by.
Well, it's like a giant hornet flying like right by your head, like immediately. Like, oh god.
Yeah, I don't think it was a night because the Gettysburg or Guys and Generals did a good video at night, like the audio at night when they're being shot at. Maybe.
Just now. You don't mind? Colonel Chamber.
No, it doesn't have any audio. But in the movie, I remember you hear that zzz, zzz, zzz. It's very accurate for the most part.
I mean, the first time I was ever shot at was out deer hunting on public land when I was about 16.
Sucker.
And
It's
it
always a
made
fun
that
sound.
Oh yeah, it made that sound. I hear the boom, and I'm like, what the fuck? So we got behind a tree. I was like, shit. Then we went to Iraq. It was fun, and I never heard that sound again. You know, but no,
I
was
heard
like,
that sound quite recently, walking through my yard.
well, yeah, that was fun too. Like, it's, but no, like that
boomer
sound is
neighbor.
it's very like, huh. And so yeah, you're saying that those soldiers had been shot at before with regular minier balls and like just round ball, and they hear this weird sound. They're like, "That's different. The fuck is that?" They're going to be able to tell because, yeah.
Is there anything else you want to cover? Like, so we did the gun carton. We did the we did the Rice and Nika there.
Oh yeah. Oh shit. Yeah, I love this one.
Oh, this is where the bullets roll off the table.
Who gives a fuck?
Go.
Ray, why is your internet so laggy?
It's because I'm white.
Whoa. Are you?
Racist.
I don't know. I just work here, man.
I thought you were Mexican.
Wait, you work here? That means you're getting paid.
No, indentured servitude.
For that time period, that's still really fucking fast. Like, to lay lead down.
1841.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's really fast.
20 years before the Civil War.
You're right. But who cares? You're doing a great job.
Goodbye. Now, this is rifled, correct?
Oh, yeah.
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 The Geyser was a really fucking cool rifle.
But it had like, what was the max range of it? Like 300 yards or something, roughly?
Well,
accurately?
it depends. It depends on the year. So they upgraded the ammunition 3 times in the service life. So
Okay.
it starts out when he first presents this thing to the Prussian government. It's shooting a round ball, musket ball. Then they change it to a bullet that's similar to like an acorn shape.
That's right.
And in 1855, they realize, so the Prussians have this wonder weapon. It's this breech loading bolt action rifle that no one else has, but it's also from it's developed in the 1830s, model 1841.
Sure.
It's a big bore. Think of like a 69 caliber smooth bore. It's from that era. So it's this big caliber, shoots a big heavy piece of lead, which means it's slow. The velocity is slow. When it was adopted in 1841, no one else in the world had a rifle. So the Prussian plan was, we will stand here 200 yards away from you and shoot you to crap while you can't shoot back at us with your smoothbore muskets. It's like, we got you. Tables had turned by the mid 1850s because now everyone else has a mini ball rifle. And the British are training, we're going to shoot out to 900 yards. And the Prussians have this gun
Yeah.
The Prussians, were like, we would only plan to fight out to 200 yards. So in kind of desperation, they made you're kind of familiar with the Abrams tank round, that 120 millimeter
The Sabo.
discarding Sabo fin stabilized penetrator rod. Well, the Prussians were using discarding Sabos before it was cool. They put the same concept in their rifle. So in 1855, they adopt a new bullet. The lead bullet never touches the rifling. It's in a Sabo. The Sabo discards at the muzzle. So they're able to reduce the weight of the bullet and therefore increase its muzzle velocity. They also reduce the friction by
What was
having
the
a
Sabo coating made out of?
paper.
Or the fins? Paper?
Yeah, it's paper. Yep.
They literally made a Sabo round that
They made a
withstand that
Sabo.
pressure.
Yep.
And
They took a long strip of paper, they rolled it up, soaked it in glue, and then pressed it in a die. So it came out like pretty hard. And then they stuck the bullet in that. The bullet is shaped like a teardrop, so it's similar to like a nuclear submarine shape. It
Trey,
has
can you try and Google that and pull that up?
You want to look
I
for.
never heard about this.
I think
you have a video
on it.
Yeah, any one of the recent needle rifle videos I did should have one. Or if you Google, it's called the Langblei in German. Literally, long lead was the creative name the Germans gave it. The Sabo in German is Treibspiegel, so literally like a driving mirror.
Will this one have it in it?
Yep. That should have either this is the one that I'm afraid their YouTube's going to take off.
Fuck them. Make sure it's backed up. Make sure it's backed up.
Jamie, pull it up, Jamie.
Jamie, pull it up. Back it up.
Here.
Back it up, Jamie. If they pull this, they can go fuck themselves.
Open image in new
Right there,
tab.
there you go. That's the bullet.
Shit! Really?
Yeah. Yep.
What
Yep.
the
So
fuck?
that's a 13.5 millimeter bullet.
Dude, that's nuts.
Yeah. They increased the velocity with that by about maybe 20%, but it's still a lower velocity than
That's the whole cartridge.
So this is
right.
it.
So you see there's the rolled up paper, there's the bullet sitting in a discarding Sabo.
Right. Rolled it up. Holy fuck.
Yep.
Really? That's fucking awesome, dude, to be honest.
Yeah, and they fought they beat Austria in 1866 and then France in 1870 with this Rube Goldberg style cartridge.
Holy shit. You learn something every day.
Yeah, this is what's so fascinating about the black powder era, the 19th century, is they were so much more advanced than we give them credit for. Like we kind of think back like, oh, there's muzzleloader. They're kind of like Revolutionary War, the Patriot kind of level of low technology.
Yeah, pouring their own lead and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they're much smarter than we give them credit for, and we have an American reputation or an American assumption that the Europeans back then were like they were too set in their ways. They're dumb and stupid. They didn't really know how to fight war. These people were smart and they're figuring stuff out. Like the Prussians have a bolt action breech loading, discarding Sabo rifle 5 years before the American Civil War. Like they could load in the prone. They go down in the and that was what they built their tactics around is we don't have to stand up here and shove bullets down our guns with a long stick. We can go in the prone and thumb these things in.
Well, the thing too is, I actually, I think I don't know if I was talking to Trey or somebody else the other night. We were talking about like how people nowadays, and it seems to be that way like constantly. It's like people just seem to always think that we're at the pinnacle of the intelligence and the ingenuity and the technology and whatever. It's like, sure, some of those are true. Like, yeah, it's the newest time. Like, we're here, but people before us had to be very intelligent and they knew a bunch of shit.
They
that
were
is
limited
now,
by the technology of their time period, not
but
by
they
their
invented
intelligence.
this fucking technology. That's the thing. Is like they were the. So where did it come from? That it didn't come out of nowhere. It's like these people were very intelligent and.
Well, I'm talking about like material technology. Like the quality of steel they had was nowhere near the quality of steel we have nowadays.
Well, but why is that? Is because people were intelligent and said, I want to make better steel. So here's how I'm going to do that. People have always been, as an animal, we're very weak, in my opinion, right?
I chalk the Prussians up to superior mustache technology.
You chuck what?
I chalk the Prussians up to superior mustache technology to go along with the picture that I just shared.
Yeah, that's about all I've ever fucking got. Yeah. Wilhelm in his lobster helmet. He's got the lobster fucking, yeah.
See, it's all about the mustache power.
That's right.
Or no, it's Franz Ferdinand. I'm sorry, that's not Wilhelm.
Oh, the
I
Prussians.
misspoke.
I think that's Bismarck, right?
That's Bismarck.
Is that Bismarck?
Yeah.
That's Bismarck.
Yeah. So you talk about World War I too, and then World War II.
Oh, it is Bismarck.
They were the Prussians, and that needle rifle stayed, like the German army even through 1945 is still essentially a grown up Prussian army, but they never left the Prussian mindset because they adopt. So Prussia, if you look at the map of Prussia in 1840, it's a small country. And
it's a nation state.
It's got massive empires surrounding it. And the Prussians got their butts kicked in the Napoleonic War. They remembered getting their butts kicked and being occupied by Napoleon and basically being Napoleon's bitch for a while until they finally halfway redeemed themselves at Waterloo, when finally, Blucher finally shows up and, yay, we win. But they remember, they're like, we are a small country. Voltaire mocked Prussia, called them a kingdom of border strips. Like their whole country is basically a border zone. And they are thinking, how the hell are we going to have a chance when we end up going to war with one of these big empires around us? We need like some kind of advantage to even the odds. And when Scheiße shows up with his needle rifle, they're like, oh, okay. So in 1841, the Prussian army purchases the needle rifle in large, like 100,000 or so. There's a whole bunch of
really?
Puts them in storage. Says this is a secret weapon. We're only going to pull this thing out if we need it. But they wanted to have what we would call it today as a combat multiplier. Like one Prussian soldier is going to be worth 3 of theirs because we have this combat multiplier. And Prussia also realized we're a tiny country. We have very limited resources. So when we go to war, we have to go to war fast. We have to mobilize faster than everyone else. And we have to encircle the enemy's army before they're ready. And we have to deliver. We have one punch, basically. We're the short, skinny kid in the playground surrounded by, big, beefy, stocky, brawny guys. Like, we got one chance. We can deliver one punch before they turn around and beat us into the ground. So we have to go very fast. And they develop these quick moving tactics around the needle rifle. Like, so we can get in, encircle the enemy, layer him in fire. They're thinking through this in the 1860s.
Right.
Imagine our Civil War, where we're still marching up like Revolutionary War style and pasting each other with volleys at 100 yards. The Prussians are thinking fire and maneuver in the 1860s. They've already adopted a form of what we would call mission command, where junior officers don't wait for orders. The junior officers should know what their hire's mission objective is, and they use their initiative on that. But everything depends on getting your forces ready, fielding an army before your enemy can field their army, attacking the enemy before they're ready, encircling them, the Kesselschlag, the pocket battle, wrap around them, and that's exactly what they did in World War One. We have one shot. We cannot fight a two-front war. The ghost of Prussia never left them. That we have to win fast. We don't have the resources, the food, the logistics for a long-term war. And the same thing happens in the Second World War, where they're still famously, they're using horse-drawn wagons to hold their supplies deep into the Second World War on these massively long supply lines, because their focus was we have to have the tooth to tail ratio. We have to have that massive striking blow, and we have to have the combat multiplier on the enemy, but we have to take the enemy out quickly. So you see the whole blitzkrieg, all of this stuff comes from this Prussian paranoia that we have to be fast. We only have one chance to win the war. And it worked in 1866. It worked.
In 1870?
In 1870, it worked. Sedan, they capture the emperor of the French on the battlefield. Like, it works beautifully.
And then they got Alsace. They got Alsace-Lorraine.
Right.
It was German until 1918.
Yeah. And they came really close to doing it again. Now, it's hard to say whether, because Moltke the Younger gets paranoid about Russia, of course, and so he peels away several divisions that were supposed to be allocated to the French front and sends them east because he's afraid the Russians are going to mobilize faster than we thought. And then historians have been arguing about that.
They did, but they also knew that, because Russia also, it's not like they just didn't know about that. Like, Russia said, hey, if you guys go into Serbia, Austria-Hungary in question, if you guys go into Serbia, we're going to mobilize and we're going to fucking go into Austria-Hungary. Because Serbia's our little brother, and we have a treaty with them. And then France goes, well, we've got a lot of money in Russia. So if you do that, not a good idea. And then, Wilhelm is a fucking retard, and he's just like, doesn't consult the fucking parliament or anything, just goes, yeah, we got your back. And all of a sudden, Austria-Hungary's like, we're going to go into Serbia. I mean, this is a very, 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 watered down, very, vague version of that. And so then Russia mobilizes, and then, Moltke's like, well, Russia's a huge threat. And it's like, they really weren't, because that fucking area is so vast. But Russia is a threat of wasting resources, which they did in the Second World War as well. And their supply line was so fucked up in the Second World War and in the First World War as well. But they thought they had it figured out in the Second World War. The Germans, when they went into Russia, they're like, we've got it. So every time a German tank or a vehicle gets hit or we need repairs, we're going to put it on a train and we're going to send it back to Germany to get repaired correctly at the factories. And then we're going to, we'll send it right back. We've got a great supply line. That worked for about 3 months.
The German sustainment in because in both world wars, they never expected to need that sustainment. They expected the war is going to be over.
They're all surrounded, like you said earlier. They're all surrounded, and so they expect that if they fight a war, they don't have to go that far, right?
Right.
It's either defensive or they're just going to a country near them.
You win when you encircle and destroy the enemy's armies. So that you look at the invasion of Russia, how many prisoners they captured. Like these Prussian generals still running the German army in World War II are like,
Right.
we've taken how many Russian POWs? Was it like 5 million? Like some absurd number. Like we have encircled and captured and destroyed one Russian army group after another. So it is impossible for them to keep fighting the war under the old paradigm of old Europe that the Prussians were still under. The encirclement victories that they got during those, the glorious first few days, first few months in Russia.
That's it. And it's
just like staggering level. So that was peak Russian military. Like there's a lot of criticism of like, should the US military really study the Prussians? Because we have copied the U.S. Army today has stolen things from other countries that we like. So we have stolen the British concept of a professional, long-serving army and a professional NCO corps. Because that's what the British had. We took that from the British. That has made our military so incredibly effective because we like this. We like that British professional NCO corps. The stinking Russians would give anything to have an NCO corps a fraction of what the American army.
The Iraqi army would have loved to have that too.
They
had it.
Russian commissioned officers have to do everything that an American buck sergeant is doing.
That's
But we took the British personnel concept, like the professional, like even in the 1850s, the British Army was volunteer. You enlisted for 16 years. When you joined the British Army, you had the option to do what was called limited service, which was where you were not obligated that long, but your pay was less and your benefits was less. But when you joined the British Army, that's what you do in life. I am a soldier. You are a professional volunteer. There's no draft. The British Army has no conscription until World War I, when they finally can't get enough volunteers. But the U.S. Army today has that British, we want a long-serving army where our NCOs do more than one enlistment. We keep that institutional knowledge. We have that mid-level so that our officers aren't here making sure Joe cleaned his weapon. The officers are here like, well, let's plan for next month's training. Let's plan for ranges next year. Let's plan for, let's do brainy officer nerdy stuff where we don't have to be in the weeds with the soldiers. We got NCOs to run the army. The officers can think about stuff in the future. We have that. And then our leadership style, how we actually operate, is German. And there's a ongoing debate in the army, like, should we really be taking our lessons from like the back-to-back World War losers?
Well, so here's we've talked about this before on the stream, and I've talked about this like in private with my friends and everything like that. The biggest thing that the Germans consistently the Prussians and the Germans consistently fuck up on is logistics. Consistently.
Right. Because they assume they're not going to need it.
Right.
They assume we're not going to need logistics.
The one thing the United States has is we can be anywhere in the world within 48 hours with a logistics stream, like constantly flowing supplies in. We've proven that time and time again.
And I will offend a lot of people by saying the one thing the American Army is, the one thing we're good at.
I'm sorry. Trey just made a joke that's relevant because.
Except North Carolina.
That wasn't the Army, to be fair. That was FEMA. Holy shit! Fucking right on. Fucking right on.
Sorry, Brad. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I'm gonna offend a bunch of people when I say the thing the American Army is good at is logistics.
Yes, no, they're fantastic at it. Hey, here's the thing: we were both Bravo.
We mastered it in World War II.
Yes. And actually, World War I, we figured it out. But like, so Bravo and I were both 11 Bravo. funny that his name is Bravo because he's a fucking clown. But no, so without you lose your virginity with that finger. So we had food. I'm not going to go into the semantics of the bitching about the quality of everything because whatever. We
Yeah,
were
but
always
you got
fed.
it.
We had
Yep.
ammunition. We had clothing. We had shelter, whether it's a poncho or a fucking billet. We always had logistics. We didn't have to worry about it. It wasn't within our purview. We didn't have to fucking worry about it. It's like that, and to think about how many people it
We
took
always
to
had
just.
toiletries.
Yes, we did. We always had that shit. And so it's like how many people in a fucking supply chain have to do their jobs perfectly for us to get that shit? It's like 13 people. If you go like really look at it, it's like that's a lot of people just to get one fucking MRE, right?
Yep.
At least. And I'm like, that's fucking impressive, dude. Logistics,
Yeah,
Not just
the
that, but it's
the American military, like we go to stay. Like when we have the capability, and this is why when we left Afghanistan, like the rest of the international security force had to leave with us because they could not. The British, for instance, were not super excited about abandoning Afghanistan and giving it back to the Taliban. They only have 6 aircraft in the entire Royal Air Force that can reach Afghanistan, and those 6 C-17s that they have are leased to them from the United States.
No shit.
So we have that operational reach, and it. So I was overseas when we built the pier to Gaza, when the administration said, I want a pier here in this war zone where there has never ever been a port because the coast from Gaza is very shallow. So you have to build a really long pier in order to bring a ship up to it. That's why there are no stinking ports there. There's no harbors. And we did it. And the politics of it aside, the politics are irrelevant. The fact is the president said, I want a pier somewhere where there's never been a pier before. And a month later and a couple $100 million, you have one. But we're the only ones on earth that could have done that with our
I agree with you.
Sustainment. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's like, yeah, again, all politics aside, like, I mean, we could sit there and bitch about politics forever, but I mean, it's pretty fucking boring. And here's the thing is all 4 of us have been fucked by politics directly. So it's like, we get it. But no, you're right about logistics. I was always really impressed. And I think Jake, you and Trey, you've said this too, is like, we're always really impressed about, we always had everything to survive. Like, we're still alive. Like, the Army is a really fucking tough job. It really is. Yeah. You're in a lot of bad positions, a lot of bad spots a lot of times where you're like, how in the hell am I like alive right now? I'm getting food. Yep.
The really miraculous thing about U.S. military logistics isn't just the fact that, okay, the Army guys have everything they need. They've got their bullets, they got their beans, they got their bandages, they got their beds. But the inter-service cooperation that has to happen in order for that to happen anywhere in the world is second to none. Like, you got Air Force planes bringing it to the ports. You've got Navy ships taking it across the ocean. You've got Army and Marine Corps ground convoys escorting it to its final destination. It's like you have an entire industry of moving shit from the factories and warehouses to the guys that need it, and you can get that shit there in a very, very rapid time period.
Yeah.
What's the movie? Is it Battle of the Bulge? Where like the Germans capture an American base and they have and they're trying to capture the American fuel, right? And and they find like a package with a cake in it that had been baked in the United States like a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And like this German officer's looking at this and saying, "We've lost the war. Like the Americans have enough fuel and planes and people to send cake like on an express flight." My phone's telling me I have 10% battery, so if I disappear, that's why.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But like, no,
Well,
I mean,
Pull
it's
this
just
up real
like,
quick. It's irrelevant for the Palestine thing. The
Yeah. So that's what my soldiers were doing. So I was so I ran the you're probably familiar with like a MSR Tampa going up into
Very
Iraq.
familiar with it.
Jake's
I
been
did
on
not.
that fucker so many times. Yeah.
I did not run Tampa, but I ran ASR Aspen. So if you've
ran
ever
some of that, too.
if you've ever crossed the berm at Kabari Crossing, that was my AO.
I was
So-
pre-K crossing. I was at Navistar.
Yeah, well,
I was
actually I
at
can't.
Navistar in the Safwan crossing.
Yeah, that was they had overwatch of everything we shipped through there. So
I know.
we
I actually manned the border crossing outpost of MSR Tampa, and we
but
did
I
QRF
was
on the
on
northern part on the northern part of the Kuwait end of Tampa.
I was on Aspen, and I was running that. So I'm attached to a movement control battalion. I'm a movement control team commander, and so I'm running I have the in transit visibility and all of the movement of the trucks, the crossing of the border. So I'm dealing with the Iraqis, dealing with the Kuwaitis, dealing with the commercial truck drivers, and they pull about a third of my unit away from me mid-mission to go do the support to Gaza, and I had soldiers rigging the pallets, and I'm wondering if any of my soldiers rigged the pallets that fell down on any of these poor Palestinian people. I mean,
oh man,
we tried the American chutes typically open, but I guess the Jordanian Air Force dropped a lot of pallets that their chutes, I don't know who made them. They frequently failed and they ended up crushing a lot of poor people.
man.
I feel bad. It's always the people whether it's you're German civilians in World War I and you're fleeing from the Russians, or whether you're just
French.
the ordinary people, especially the kids, because the kids have done nothing. You have no control over where you're born. If you're 12 years old somewhere, it's none of this is your fault at all, and you're hungry. And these Hamas assholes are confiscating all the food and trying to sell it back to you at exorbitant prices. You're starving. And, and here
food
come
that's being provided for free.
The Americans are coming and they're dropping food for you. And you go out and then you end up getting squashed by a pallet. It's horribly, ironically sad. The whole thing is you'd think
as we
in
all
2024
know,
we would have figured this out a little better, but
as all of us know, dark humor is the way to get through it.
Yeah.
The only thing that I can reply with is November Mike Foxtrot Papa.
Yep.
Not my fucking problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you do what you can do.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I'm still frustrated that they took a third of my unit, and I'm complaining up to battalion, like how. So me and my first sergeant. So you got a major, which a major in command of a company was. I got promoted like a week after I'm in theater, but you have a major and a first sergeant driving Humvees because we are escorting convoys through Kabari Crossing because I had no one else, and I am
It's good
sure
for
as
you.
hell not going to call the battalion commander and say, yeah, no, mission failure. I don't have enough people. Like
It's good for you because it puts in perspective what your Joes are having to put up with.
Well, and I was enlisted before I went to OCS too. So
But yeah, I think
like
that's a
been-
big problem with a lot of the officer leadership in the current U.S. military is they're so far removed from what their troops are actually doing from the end result of the orders that they're issuing
and
that
they
don't realize
that.
Yeah. They don't realize that, hey, it's really easy for me to write this order and tell my Joes to execute, but my Joes are the ones that have to suck the whole fucking time.
Well, I make a joke
to meet my expectations.
that it's a joke, but it has an element of truth in it. Like I'll tell people, like, do you want to know how an officer sets up a tent? Like, hey, for son, I need a tent set up here.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't. The pet peeve that I got. Well, there were specialist Gibbons could have written a book about things that infuriated me. But one of the things I hated was final formation at the end of the day, and you get some stinking officer up there who wants to talk and put out information, and you pay attention to none of it. You're just standing there at parade rest waiting for whoever to
piggyback
just
off
shut
of
up and let us go home.
Yeah.
We're talking about
fucking
this. This
tired
is
and I
great.
want to go to bed.
To piggyback off what the commander said.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know. So we've been working on these things for this weekend. Really good progress, but we can make this better. And just want to let you know. So this training is available, and it's like fucking kill me.
This was first formation information, not final formation information.
Right, exactly. And it's like you should have thought about this fucking 3 days ago. How about that?
Yeah, that's kind of your job as the officer to be planning out the training cycle in between training cycles.
I loved having like right before I got out.
Yep, there he goes.
He just dropped. Yeah, his phone's gone.
Yeah.
I loved having a Mustanger who was in on the first deployment and then went to college and then went to OCS. Fucking awesome guy. Because he just pop in and be like, "You guys doing all right?" Yeah. All right. And just walk out. Like that's a great pal.
Yeah.
So those of us Bravo company guys who got attached to Delta, we had a Mustanger, and he fucking sucked.
Well, I mean, okay, your results. This thing is, it's a very subjective basis.
But he also went to Ranger school too, and he got his Ranger tab.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, but like, it's like whatever. Yeah, I mean, fucking. We've bitched about the military so much, and it's like we'll probably never stop, to be honest, because it was just like so retarded. It was just like that's why I actively discourage everyone. I'm like, nah, it's really not.
And that's honestly one of the biggest reasons why I can't stand stupid bureaucratic bullshit even to this day.
Oh, dude.
I absolutely fucking hate dispatches. It's like, okay, it takes you 3 fucking minutes to put together my fucking dispatch for tomorrow. It takes me 14 fucking hours to do the work that took you 3 minutes to put together.
Yeah.
And you idiots, you work 8 o'clock a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m. 5 days a week.
It's a rough job, Jake.
And your office doesn't fucking move. You can plan your fucking life around your work schedule.
What'd you say, Trey?
I can't.
I went to college, so you respect me.
I went to college too.
But you're not an officer, so I don't respect you.
How good was his PT score? That's what really matters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody's been in the military.
Yeah. Can you do push-ups?
Jesus Christ! Like it was so. Oh God! I don't want to get on that tirade again.
Doesn't matter if you can run or not. If you can do push-ups, you're fucking golden.
Oh God! I mean, whatever. I mean, like I'm learning to let a lot of that shit go, a lot of the resentment for certain people.
It's not the people that I have resentment towards. Well, there's two in particular that I have resentment towards.
Okay, well then there is.
But it's the system that I resent.
Oh, for sure. But like it's and it's but whatever. It's I did it, it's done, it's over with. I'm not there anymore, and I don't have to go back. So that's that. And but yeah. It's not what people think it is. Like it fucking sucks. It's a shitty job. Like you don't want to do
How many
it.
promotions you can suck is more valuable.
Luckily, I'm heterosexual, and I was never good at.
We were not in a co-ed unit. Well,
right, except for the ones that got attached to us.
Yeah,
which was fucking weird.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense to me either.
That was just like, I'm like, are you?
And they were all Minnesota.
No, they weren't. No, there was like half Minnesota, half Wisconsin volunteers.
I can't find it. There was a meme of the landing craft on D-Day, and it was the typical photo of like Normandy, the landing craft, people going off. I was like, hold on, have you completed your sexual harassment training?
But were they getting shot at by an MG-42?
Doesn't matter. You haven't completed a sexual harassment training.
I mean, Trey makes a fair point here, Jake.
That's our modern military.
What about you forgot the suicide awareness?
Yep.
The suicide awareness training that makes you want to commit suicide.
And also Virginia Reenactor, 2 of them are the ones that saw my balls. Yes.
Balls.
I've told that story before on stream. It was fun, but like no, they're actually the 2 like that actually ended up being cool. So I've seen bigger. Yeah, that's great to hear.
Okay.
Chicks told me that.
I know.
And so it's not great to hear that.
What can you do? You know?
Whatever. I was like, okay, after like the 3rd day passed, there was no EO complaint. I'm like, maybe we're good. So it ended up working out fine. But like, whatever. Yeah. It's like, hey, if I get hit and you actually have to treat me, I don't care. You've already seen it. So, but yeah. No, it's great having Brett on, dude. Like Brett's he's
very knowledgeable. Yeah.
He's part of the clan. With the C, not the K.
He's in the clique now.
Oh yeah, when he said the thing about the fucking boomer FUD lore, I'm like, you're.
Yep.
That those are the key words. We're good to go here, bud.
Yep.
So.
But yeah, I think it's almost 3 hours now.
Oh shit! It has been. Holy fuck.
Yeah, 2 hours and 52 minutes.
Damn, dude, that fucking flew.
Yep.
And we barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, cool, man. Like that's fucking awesome. Like I hope he comes back on. He's always welcome. Did you add him to the?
I will.
Yeah. So yeah, because we just barely scratched the surface. Like he's got so much more knowledge. Like the Whitworth, though, that's a fucking beast of a rifle. That's an absolute beast of a fucking weapon for being that old, and so is the Trysa. So. Cody, you were just outside. Go lay down her. I'm gonna fucking pet you so hard you'll die. Just lay down, dude. Come on. Lay down. Lay down. He has to have a blanket over him, otherwise he can't lay down. So
what's the word for the stream?
Lorenz.
Lorenz?
Lorenc.
Z.
Yep. Z. But the way the Germans and the Austrians pronounce it, it's Lorenz. So, Lorenz.
Funny because I was just looking at Proxy Bid to see if I could find one on there. There isn't one. There isn't one there right now.
When the time is right, Jake, we'll both be standing there probably in our 50s or 60s with our complete second Wisconsin Volunteer Infantry Regiment uniforms, with our Lorentz rifles and all that shit.
Oh,
so.
and my 50s aren't that far away anymore.
Mine aren't either, actually. I'm only a couple years behind you. You got to remember that.
Yeah, you better start looking.
Yeah, I'm gonna be 39 this month.
Fuck, that sucks.
Yeah, it does. It's all Smitty's fault. I blame him.
It's because I'm white. What can you do?
Again, you can't prove that.
It's the mustache power.
You can't prove that.
Yes, you are no longer allowed to shave the mustache because your face just does not look right without it.
It's not great. Yeah, it's not great.
I got bullied by a lot of people, so I guess I have to keep it around.
I don't care what you do with the rest of it, but you have to keep the mustache. Otherwise, you don't look like Trey Smitty.
So this is Jake. This is I started early this year. This is 2 weeks now.
Oh, really?
This
is 2 days since I trimmed last.
Good for you. Age. That's what an embarrassment. What a disgrace. Can you imagine? Yeah, can you imagine this? Growing that much facial hair in 2 days?
We're coming back around too.
What an embarrassment. The worst ever. And I don't have time for it.
Yeah.
So
See you, Slick.
Oh, yeah, Slick signing up. All right, yeah, you guys want to wrap it up?
Yes,
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have to go to work tomorrow, so yay.
Okay.
I'll keep going. I don't give a fuck. It's Friday.
I got tomorrow off. So I actually was wondering, I was sitting at my last customer unloading, and I'm like, why it's like 4:00 in the afternoon. Where the fuck is my dispatch for tomorrow? And then I checked the calendar on my phone and it said off. I'm like,
nice.
Oh,
cool. I mean, we can keep going and watch a bunch of cool shit if you want. Like, Trey, if you gotta go, you gotta go. But like,
I'm running on fumes. If y'all want to keep going, go ahead.
Me too. I'm fucking tired.
Okay, all right. We'll just call it then. Again, the keyword is Lorentz, LORENC.
And if you want to join the page, if you want to join the Discord and actually talk to us and maybe do a movie night coming up, you got to join.
Oh, we are doing a movie night.
Yeah, you got to join Mike's Patreon at the $5 tier in order to get access to the Discord.
We did one tonight. For everybody who didn't know, he has never seen Doc Holliday or Tombstone, so we watched Tombstone tonight. Yeah. He said he didn't like it because it was Western, but whatever, it was cool.
Coming up sometime later this month, we are going to be watching Escanaba into Moonlight because that is. Well, last year I said this is going to be an annual tradition, and in order for it to become annual tradition, we have to do it more than once.
Anal?
Hey, here's how much of an annual tradition that is for me.
Anal?
I started watching it in about 2005, and I've watched it every fucking year in November at some point since then, including when we were deployed.
Anal?
Yes,
what?
Anal.
Yes,
anal. The anal tradition.
Yeah.
Anal, yes.
Boomity boom.
Boom.
Boomity boo!
He wants the shotgun!
What a whiskey chaser!
With a whiskey chaser!
I should go shit myself.
Jimmy, where's your car, eh?